All right, let's quit fucking around, folks. We've got praxis to do. I'm gonna give him a call.
Hey,
Hey,
what's going on?
I am doing wonderfully. How about you?
Pretty good.
All right. Well, thank you for blessing us with your presence. How did you get yourself in this position? I caught a snippet. You had a big old stream talking about intersectionality. What can I ask? What led to that?
Yeah, I was at the Toronto Vegetarian Association speaking panel. I was at some vegan event in Toronto. They kicked me off the panel. They accused me of being racist, homophobic, sexist, misogynist, basically every name in the book. And then I found out it was this dude, Darren Chang. He's a big intersectional activist. So then I made a video just like defending myself, protecting my reputation. Then I challenged Darren Chang to a debate on intersectionality. One of the reasons I have an interest in intersectionality is because some of the ideas I can sort of understand and agree with to an extent, but there's a huge issue with the culture, especially when it comes to vegan activism. And it's like the cancel culture sort of aspect to it. So I challenged Darren Chang to a debate on intersectionality. He refused, and then
Oh,
just some other girl accepted.
and how'd that one go?
Pretty good.
Oh, nice.
I wasn't really convinced, towards her sort of opinion that, intersectionality is like the best form of activism or whatever, but I can understand where she's coming from. And I do, like, again, I do agree with some of the principles that, different forms of oppression should be dealt with. It's just that I don't agree with the idea that, sexism, racism, things like that, they're actually related, at least in any meaningful way.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Let's hit it up. So first off, so did they like cite any particular reasons why they kicked you off the panel? Because I don't want to get like put into a position where I'm defending someone who's like, oh, one time they said the R slur on streams, that we don't want that kind of shit in our community. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm defending some like really woke scoldy stuff. So did they have like any substantial? Is there
No,
like
so
drama
I
in the
asked.
past or?
Yeah, so like I've done a ton of controversial shit on my channel.
Hey, me too, buddy.
I don't know if you're familiar with my kind of content, but like especially when I first started, I was like kind of crazy.
I know you're fucking
And
yoked. You're going
yeah,
crazy on those fucking fibers.
yeah. So like, I was caught up in a controversy with that guy Repsion a while ago, where I regretted saying it, but I like threatened to kill him on stream, and people took it out of context. He was putting copyright claims on my channel, and I just got so pissed off about it because he was taking away my only source of income that like I just said something stupid. So they kind of referenced shit like that, and I can kind of understand that sort of thing. Like if they had just told me, you've said some like kind of crazy, controversial things in the past, it's just better for both of us if we didn't, work together. I could understand that, but they went a step further and accused me of racism, sexism, misogyny. Like I dress up as characters, like I literally wear wigs and do different characters, and I like enact scenes of like racism and misogyny. Where like it's one redneck character I have, like he's really mean to his wife, but that's not actually sexism. So like I can only
You can
figure.
even get away with doing blackface too. You've got your bases covered.
Yeah. I don't know if actually I have done blackface. I've done blackface and whiteface.
I respect
So
that. In light of the goal to keep all things equal. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with like getting mad, threatening to kill. I don't know if you know, I got banned from Twitch. I said I wanted the entire state to be bombed out of existence. And Israel's never even done anything to me, mind you. This person, threatened your livelihood. So I have, I completely understand that. In regards to the intersectionality stuff, because I don't know, I know I've actually seen some of your videos. I know that you've done like the natty or not shit. Obviously, you're vegan. I've seen your vegan debate. I saw your debate with Destiny.
yeah.
I thought that one was pretty good, in the sense that like I I mean, it was an interesting debate, if nothing else.
And it's okay to kill tribes people.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, those poor North Sentinelese. Yeah. You know, his position on it is like so far out from like conventional normative ethics that it's really, really difficult. But,
Yeah.
I don't know if like I'm gonna go through your videos and find like 8 months in you're like collab with Ben Shapiro to like trigger the trans women or something. Probably not.
I fucking hate all those people, dude. Like you'll find plenty of videos and live streams I've done where I just tear Ben Shapiro and Crowder and shit a new asshole,
Alright.
particularly around abortion.
Hell
But,
yeah.
Like it's
Just making sure.
what's especially strange is like I'm not left wing or right wing. Like I wouldn't really like. I guess if I had to say, I'm more center. But I don't really care about the left wing, right wing thing. Like I just care more about policies, and like, I'm pretty much in favor of a lot of progressive policies. So it's kind of strange how when I've debated people like defending women's rights to vote, I've like debated crazy far right wingers on immigration. Like I've defended abortion abortion rights. Like I'm obviously pro-choice. Like, and then they accuse me of racism, sexism, misogyny, and all this horseshit. Like,
The whole gift package. I mean, yeah, let's hit it the fuck up. I mean, I have no idea why they would make those accusations in a bubble or anything, but
well,
Oh,
I
sorry?
can tell you, why. It's because I disagree with intersectionality. I've been outspoken about that for a while, and again, like, people accuse me, like, you know, left wingers. They accuse me of straw manning intersectionality, but you know, the reason I really care about intersectionality is just because I see it kind of infecting the vegan movement, and one of the really bad things with the intersectional culture is just that, like, if you disagree with them on anything, they just try to cancel you. So that's why I've like gotten into these intersectionalist discussions and shit. But you know, like, you said you wanted to talk about intersectionality and everything, so...
Yeah,
I'm up to
I feel
talk.
like I'm pretty qualified to talk about it because I have a sociology degree, and nowadays, intersectionality is more or less the bedrock of sociological critical theory. If you go to school and you learn like about sociological theory, it's almost always being done through the lens of intersectionality. I've never heard a person say that they're in favor of anti-racism, abortion rights, women's liberation, all of the components of progressive thought, but then turn around and say they're not in favor of this sort of binding theory that unifies them into like a collective critical mass. So that's interesting to me. Let's talk about it. I guess the main thrust of intersectionality, I guess, is the idea that the power structures that lead to the oppression of group A along a given axis, let's say race or gender or what have you, is usually synchronous with other power structures which exist to oppress other marginalized communities. So, for example, like women get shit on, you know, in a variety of ways, you know, disproportionate, you know, less representation, what have you, and that's bad. And being gay, you know, usually nets you some added level of stress. Well, less so now in more progressive areas, but it's definitely still a thing. But being a gay woman means you now have this. There are specific problems at the interstice between these two axes. Like a gay woman, like a lesbian woman, you know, would deal with particular problems, like, for example, like getting called like a dyke or a butcher, what have you, or being chastised for not living up to the roles associated with femininity, like bearing a child or like taking care of a strong man. And those things exist at that point and that point only, and they can only exist because there are dual power structures that kind of overlap at that section. You know what I mean?
Okay, so when I debated this woman, I think her name was Christina. I'm really bad with remembering names, but she kind of explained it in a different way. She was explaining it in a way where she was suggesting these lines of oppression, they're interrelated, and if you take down one line of oppression, it's basically like this web where if you untangle one web, it like the whole web kind of breaks down. The way you're explaining it is a bit different, where you're saying there are different forms of oppression like sexism and homophobia, and they can intersect each other, and people can deal with two forms of oppression at the same time. So,
yeah, and that they sort of
okay.
reflect off one another. There's this discursive element between those two axes, which leads to a specific a juncture that leads to specific problems for the people who occupy that space.
Okay, that explanation makes a lot more sense to me. Now, I will say personally that most of the intersectionalists I've dealt with, they don't really use that sort of explanation to define intersectionality.
I've found that there are a lot of people online, and this is, I'm not trying to sound like condescending to them or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I have found that there are a lot of people online who are progressive, and it's good that they're progressive, but they they express their political views by misappropriating academic terminology, and it can make it really difficult to clear up what exactly anyone means when you start having people talk about like the discursive realities and talk about like intersectionality, critical theory, and you have no idea if they're using the academic definition or if they just heard it and it sounded woke, so they started like throwing it out there, as
Well,
aggressively as they could.
I'm sure there are tons of those people, and I'm sure I've met tons of those people. The way you describe intersectionality makes a lot more sense to me because, like, just to clarify, you're not saying that these different forms of oppression, they're somehow interrelated to each other, where if you got rid of one, the other will, like, kind of collapse?
I think actually I would take the opposite position. I would say that if you got rid of one without getting rid of the other, that other one that still exists would seek to fill in the holes that were left through the absence of the axis of oppression you just removed. Do you mind if I throw another example out there?
Sure.
Like for you, you just clarify. Like I don't fuck up. Like you're black, right?
Well, half black, I guess.
Right. I don't know if you're like Latin or something. I don't fucking. But this is, I don't know if it's ever happened to you. I've been told this happens fairly frequently, at least in my experience. It makes sense intuitively. Like a lot of fucking black guys, especially big ones, you're a pretty big boy, often get this like uneasy feeling in public that that other people are like nervous to be around them, like particularly like white women, because and you don't know like is it because I'm like a big guy or is it because I'm black and they're kind of like tetchy about that, and it's this weird intersection because being a guy isn't enough there. It's not enough to just be a guy to elicit that reaction, and also not to be black because black women don't get treated that way. It's this the point between the two, and if you took away one of those axes, if you could suddenly like remove sexism from the equation, like there was perfect parity between the sexes, genders, complete equality, racism would still kind of fill in that gap, and you'd be experiencing the same problem because you failed to substantively address the entirety of the problem. You've only gotten rid of one leg of the chair. The chair's still over you, you know?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's the gist of it, at least.
Right.
A little while out of school, but I think intersectionality is a really, really valuable way of sort of approaching and dealing with social issues, because without it, you kind of get left in this like, oh, well, are they being treated like shit because of this or this? Well, they can't be getting treated like shit because they're black. They're rich. Rich people have privilege. Okay, well, black people don't. And it gets all really stupid and oppression Olympicsy unless you find a way to sort of take into account all the different disparate threads.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. Now, what was also interesting to me, like there are several levels to the debate I had about intersectionality before. We were discussing like whether or not the concept of intersectionality is valid. Again, like the debate went in a different direction because of the way she explained it. I don't see any sort of direct interaction between these different forms of oppression. Like I don't see how racism and sexism are directly interrelated to each other, but I can see how, yeah, somebody can experience sexism and racism at the same time. Like, if you're a black woman. Now, there was another level to it with how we deal with activism, and it's activism in the vegan community. Like, how would intersectionality help vegan activism specifically?
I've had a weird, I'm not going to lie. Listen, I'm not a vegan, but I probably agree with almost every normative claim you would make about veganism. Genocide being perpetuated, untold lives lost, we need to destroy the meat industry. I would agree with those prescriptions. I've had really weird interactions with the vegan community. I feel like half of the ones I've talked to have been some flavor of eco-fascist. Where, where they're really, really concerned about animals, but then they'll like turn around and say like, "Oh yeah, fucking Negroes," that kind of thing, or like fucking feminism. So I don't really know what's going on right now in the vegan community. I would hope though that most vegans would take an intersectional approach to how they deal with social justice, because animal rights is unquestionably a form of social justice. Because if through no other lens, it's very difficult to deal with meat eating substantively without also criticizing capitalism. And that is a form of intersectionality, the class-oriented justice around critiquing capitalism and the animal rights activism associated with like shutting down meat plants and not pumping them full of hormones and such. So I think that would be like a really strong interaction there. I guess it's possible and also philosophically consistent to love animals but also fucking hate people and not really care about them. I don't know why you'd take that position, but I guess it's not technically contradictory.
Okay, yeah, this is something I discussed before too. Like, I don't necessarily see how capitalism would be a negative for animal rights. If you look at communist countries like China, they have some of the worst animal rights laws imaginable. These developed capitalist societies, we're the ones coming out with the most up-to-date animal rights laws. We're going to eventually just phase out animal agriculture entirely just because of technological advancement.
Oh, I should hope so. I mean, listen, we're all waiting on that lab-grown meat. I don't know about how quickly that transition is going to come, though. I mean, there are like hundreds of billions of dollars invested in meat agriculture in this country, aren't there? Like, that's a pretty big hole to dig out of.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's quite a lot.
I think the interaction. All right, do you mind if I go full fucking revolutionary on you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
The argument that I would make for the intersection is that, generally speaking, if you want to affect positive change in an economic sense, and that's what the vegans want to do because it's a meat industry, like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, it's all tied to money. So if you want to affect positive change in that respect, the best way to do so is to make sure that your economic system is beholden to the interests of its constituents. You want democracy. And while no matter how popular veganism might get with the population, or not just veganism, but maybe just less meat eating or being more critical of meat eating, no matter where the general population lies, the people who are actually in charge of opening and running and maintaining and funding those meat facilities, those meat agriculture plants, will never, ever budge unless it is in their material interest to do so. Their goal is to maximize those profits. Whereas in a socialist system, you eliminate the bourgeois class. And while there absolutely still can be animal mistreatment and what have you, and I could rant for ages about the problems with the USSR and the People's Republic of China, at the end of the day, making the economic superstructures of a society beholden to the interests of its people makes it more likely that positive progressive change can be made through those systems.
I see what you're saying.
That's the argument that I would make, but you can get lost in the weeds real quick with that one.
So I would agree with you there that not having a profit motive would make democratic decisions a little easier, especially when you don't have like lobbying interest groups and shit. Like there's a huge meat lobby and dairy and egg lobby in the U.S. That doesn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean that capitalism is interwoven into this social justice movement of veganism. It still doesn't make sense to me to kind of conflate veganism with anti-capitalism. Because again, you can have the same sort of issue even in socialist economies.
You absolutely can, but in much in the same way that you can do one or do the other, but and do both of them at the same time, but it's not necessarily need to do so. I would make the same argument in regards to fighting racism and sexism simultaneously. That while dealing with one of these issues does not necessarily require you deal with the other, it becomes easier to do so if you're framing it through a perspective that sort of holistically considers the elements involved. I will say, though, veganism is probably more distanced from intersectionality than any other social rights movement, if for no other reason than because it's holistic in that it only it's already dealing with animals in every way there is to deal with animals. Whereas with humans, like racism and sexism are both dealing. It gets much more specified.
Sure, I get what you're saying. So you're saying it's kind of more broad, where you're dealing with literally just the removal of fundamental rights. Like veganism would technically involve things like sexism and speciesism, which is fairly similar to racism. It's a more broad topic that doesn't really require intersectionality.
Yeah, and you can, and also to make it analogous, the level of specificity that you would see in veganism if it treated animals the same way that broader intersectional movements treated humans, you would see there would be the social movement to get animals better living accommodations, and the social movement to get them better dietary accommodations, and the social movement to keep them from being slaughtered, and all three of them, and they'd all have different names, and probably people who would argue with one another, and then someone would come up and say, hey, what if we just called it animal rights? And we sort of holistically drove them together into this one. And we could do the same thing with humans, human rights. And we kind of do. Human rights does include things like fighting against racism and sexism. Though I have to admit, and I guess this is where I pose a question at you, is your interest in intersectionality limited entirely to the utility it could pose to vegans?
I care about a number of issues. It's not that I only care about animals. I do care about human issues as well. But my primary area of focus is veganism. So if intersectionality is completely unnecessary to promote veganism, and it seems to be just a cancer on the movement, where these intersectionalists are infiltrating these organizations, they're getting people deplatformed, blacklisted, and just the whole general discourse is just going to shit. So yeah, I wouldn't really.
To what extent is that happening?
Okay, so
I have to take your word for it. I mean,
yeah.
I had meat earlier today. I am ostracized from that converse.
So I'd kind of equate it to what happened with Atheism Plus a while ago. That whole thing where they tried to make. Yeah, so before you had activists like Thunderfoot, TJ, and they were just focusing on atheism, and occasionally they'd break into slightly different topics. TJ especially, he obviously talks about women's rights and some other social justice issues, but primarily focuses on atheism. Well, with the Atheism Plus thing, there was that big atheist convention. It was totally washed out by all of these feminist, anti-capitalist, anti-racist, just
I was
political
in favor
activists.
of all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I was following all of that at the time.
Well, yeah, that's okay. Well, what? If all those things matter to you, it makes sense. But if atheism matters to you, if promoting atheism matters to you, and those other things you don't really care about, not that they're not important, but you don't really care about it, then atheism falls to the wayside, and that's kind of what I'm seeing with veganism. I was just for example, I was just at there was a friggin' woman on the Toronto Vegetarian Association. Despite the name, it's actually a vegan organization, but they happen to have a vegetarian woman who was a board member on this vegan organization. And she actually called herself an intersectionalist, and she explicitly stated we should treat animals the way we treat people. Well, she's vegetarian, so she eats dairy and eggs. So I just called her out for it and said, like, hey, if you're saying you're an intersectionalist, you care about all these intersecting lines of oppression, we should treat animals the way we treat people, then why are you promoting rape, torture, and murder of cows and chickens? And then after I did a video about this, after that video came out, all of these fucking intersectionalists were saying I did a bad thing because I criticized a woman, and they also like body shamed me apparently because I'm a large person. I have to be more polite and calm because I might frighten someone.
Hey, that's what we're talking about, baby.
Yeah.
I bet you if you were white, you wouldn't have gotten that shit, huh? Damn,
Maybe.
they're
I
proving
don't
their
know.
own point.
I'm not sure. But that's
don't know,
another
I'm
thing
making shit
too.
up.
Like, there's a lot of fucking intersectionalists who are the most like extreme racists I've ever encountered. Like that Darren Chang asshole.
I can't step up the bat for that shit. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
if you're intersectional and then you're race, okay, like fuck you. I have to touch on what you said earlier, the atheism plus thing. The speaking from the other side of that fence with that discussion. The reason why I was so sort of encanced with atheism plus and all of the sort of intersectional elements of it that moved in was because it felt like for a large period of time all of the atheist elements on YouTube, the atheist community, were basically just as smug and chauvinistic and like blind to hierarchy as the Christians they were replacing. They were just smugger about it because they were atheists and therefore correct. And the atheism plus thing was replacing their sort of smarmy fedora tipping atheism with a more holistic, humanistic atheism that recognizing atheism is not only like a gotcha that you can get to like own your uncle at family time, but also an elevating force through which we can liberate people from the oppressive elements of religion. So I was very happy to see that atheism plus stuff like grow at the time. It's stalled since. So I feel like there isn't really. I mean, nowadays, if you say like you're an atheist online, you'll get mocked for it because it's like so cliche. You know, people will make like the fedora jokes and the enlightened the the copy pasta. Like the enlightened. In
Yeah.
this moment, I am enlightened, not because of some phony god, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever the case is, like I was in favor of that because I saw and I still see atheism not for something of its own right, but also as a vehicle by which human lives can be improved. And it didn't feel like it was really living up to that purpose. You know?
Sure. Okay, I can understand that, but like, do you know any big names in the movement, the atheist movement, who were kind of like as bad as the Christians they were criticizing?
I mean, Thunderfoot's like Anita Sarkeesian like Gamergate fetish shit was pretty bad. Richard Dawkins is a huge cunt.
What did he do?
I'm sorry?
What did he do? I know
he's
there
just-
was that child pedophile thing.
He's just a smug dick. I'd have to go back through it. Oh yeah, Computing Forever. Oh, Sam Harris. Sam Harris is basically a fascist, so that one's pretty.
Really? What makes
I
him a
think
fascist?
amazing. I mean, I listen. I love calling people fascists. Amazing Atheist, I think, is more left leaning these days. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, Dawkins. Jordan, what do you mean Jordan Peterson, guys? Jordan Peterson's a conservative Christian. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dawkins is speaking at an anti-SJW evangelical conference, apparently, which is interesting.
Okay,
it
is
just
he not
felt like. Oh, sorry.
like? Is he not just kind of fed up with the weird social justice warrior cancel culture? Kind of like, isn't that just it though?
I mean,
Like-
I'm pretty critical of the worst elements of the left. I'm currently like experiencing the blowback from my most recent attempt to criticize the left. But a lot of these people, no, they just act like reactionaries. They don't act meaningfully very much different from like 2014 YouTube, where the entirety of political discourse could be boiled down to who does and does not get offended by me like talking about black people as though they're monkeys, when they riot in Baltimore or Portland or what have you. It feels like a huge regression in discourse. And a lot of the people who were touted for their intelligence because they write these manifestos on atheism and anti-Christianity, when they try and talk about other social issues, they just embarrass themselves. But they get taken seriously because not everyone can really discern between a good and a bad idea in a field they're not that familiar with.
Right. Like, I don't really know if this is such a huge issue in the vegan community. I mean, the majority of vegans are women, and they tend to be left-leaning. Although I have
Fucking
seen
femoids.
sort of a bit of a shift recently, which is kind of weird, where I've seen more, like, really far-right vegans. There's that crazy dude. He's kind of had this opinion for a long time, though. John Rose. I don't know if you know of him.
I think I've heard that name.
He's a raw vegan dude, and he believes that the Holocaust never happened. He's a Hitler supporter. He's also a big fan of Henry Ford. The dude's nuts. And I have a video clip of this. He said, Hitler was pretty nice to the Jews after what the Jews did to Hitler. Fucking insane.
I mean, I get that's an argument for intersectionality and veganism right there, though, isn't it?
Like, I mean, do we really need intersectionality to point out that these people are fucking insane?
I mean, a lot of the people on YouTube who started out being just like anti-SJW, anti like Tumblr cringe feminazi are now basically Nazis. So I feel like we jumped down that rabbit hole
Well,
really quickly. Like, but I don't know if like I don't know like how much
I
you engage with the sphere of things, but like the line from being like a Thunderfoot Sargon of Akkad fan 4 years ago to being a James Alsop, Nick Fuentes, Red Ice TV fan today is like really short. I feel like once your politics are defined by being anti-SJW, it's only a matter of time before you find yourself agreeing with every other community that's also anti-SJW, many of whom are Nazis, because Nazis don't like social justice that much.
I don't know exactly how true that is. I've seen some research on YouTube's algorithm. It seems that people tend to actually gravitate more towards the center or left from the right wing than be radicalized towards the right wing. So I've seen some data that kind of
data before I could.
yeah, like Tim Pool did a few videos on this. I don't particularly like the guy, but he did some videos on that where there was some good research done where it seems that there's more radicalization towards the left and the right wing tends to travel more towards the center or the left. On top
I think
of
the only
that,
response I have is that it's Tim Pool. I'd have to look at the data.
I don't like him either. I don't like him either. But yeah, like
What do you think he has under the beanie?
just a bald head.
You really think you don't
literally
think
it.
it's some like Ed and Eddie shit, like with double D, like it's the season finale? You know, the final Tim Pool
No,
episode. Someone yanks it off.
I'm pretty sure it's just a weird bald head. I've seen it before. There's like a video clip online where he has like a really weird bald head.
Yeah.
On top of that, I think there's just a financial incentive for some of these anti-SJW channels to go more towards the like really far right wing. I've seen that with No Bullshit for sure, where that dude has no fucking principles whatsoever, and
He is actually a neo-Nazi, by the way. He tends
does
to be
he
quiet about it, but you know, like
does he
full on, like
actually
Holocaust deny.
does he actually believe that, or is he just saying it?
It was in DMs. He was responding
Yeah.
to DMs asking about the Jewish question and saying, funny little parallel, saying like, "Hey, do you think there's a reason why they got kicked out of 139 countries in Europe? Makes you think. After what
God,
they
no.
did to Hitler, no, like he's a full-on neo-Nazi, and he has like 2/3 of a million subs. It's pretty wild.
The thing with him is, it just seems like I've seen the progression, like, and I've seen some private conversations he's had too. Not that particular one, but it just seems like he has this slightly more private opinion of things when it comes to talking to people who support him. But then on his YouTube channel, when he's speaking to a broader audience, he's less like totally insane. And I think he's made that progression where he used to just be an anti-SJW and he went into the far right just because they're a tighter community of people who will financially support him. And I know at one point he was having a lot of issues with his YouTube channel, like losing subs, losing views, so I think that's the whole reason. And I've seen the same thing with fucking Stefan Molyneux. The guy's totally
Also a
become...
neo-Nazi.
Like, he made a fucking post on Twitter, like, where he was trying to absolve white people of, like, the crimes they committed, like, with slavery. I think he said exactly that, Slavery is like the drug trade.
Oh, I remember. This is my favorite one.
Yeah,
Yes.
black people are the dealers, white people are the users, and he was
Who's
basically
worse?
trying.
Yeah, who's worse?
Yeah,
The
just
dealer
like
or the
what
user?
the fuck?
Imagine blinking and going on Twitter and seeing somebody who makes like $200,000 a year off of Patreon or whatever, however the fuck he funds his podcast, and they're saying that the real victims of the transatlantic slave trade were the white people. That's
Fucked.
a good ass meme right there.
Yeah, it's fucked. So, and I've seen him, like, I've followed him loosely for, like, a while. I used to watch him a fair bit more, like, years ago when he wasn't just totally out of his mind, but I've seen that gradual progression, and when I saw him, like, you know, just promoting this insane racist bullcrap, I just stopped watching him entirely. But
That's
I
what
think
I'm
there's
worried about mostly. I think that's what a lot of people are worried about. Because I don't want to like paint with broad brushes here. There are a lot of people who are like kind of anti-SJW, and they just like wake up or whatever and like, oh, the feminazis are at it again, and they go to sleep and they live good lives, and they're generally good, decent, moral people. But a lot of these people, I feel like, are just on a fucking gravy train to fascism, you know? And you don't know who's going to end up where, so the best thing you can do is make every community resistant to those kind of impacts. And I think that might be what they were doing with those vegan conferences. Not in regards to booting you out, I have no idea what the fuck they did that. But in terms of like making it more broadly intersectional, it might be a fear, and maybe a substantiated one, that if they don't do that, you could like blink and 3-4 years later find yourself in the company of like eco-fascist vegan movements that are like, hey, we got to save the animals. And you know who's responsible for killing those animals? That's right, it's the fucking Jews. And they don't want that, so they're just doing what they think will work best at preventing that.
I really doubt that. Like, again, I think that's this transition from anti-SJW to, like, far-right racist. I think that's more of a risk for people who have something to gain from it, like YouTubers who actually make a living, and, you know, you can very obviously see supporting these far-right racist groups does have a financial benefit. They will support you with money.
Oh yeah, they're desperate. They'll toss 90% of their income at you, anything to have them be told that the white race will rise again. I don't know. I guess it really depends on how much you believe radicalization is a threat. In my experience, and this is also because it's literally my job to do this. Like, this is my more so than most left-leaning channels. I deal with radicalization and trying to like de-radicalize people in the center or on the right. I see like a lot of people when I go into those poll threads, or when I go into Nick Fuentes' stream, every once in a while Nick Fuentes will be like, and what brought you here, boys? What was your red pill? And then like the chat will flood with a wave of like Sargon of Akkad's, the Quarterings, you know, and all of the people who, innocuous in some lights, but to some people that was the first step down a road that led them to a death cult. And that's pretty fucking yikesy.
Well, I have two things to say there. I think there was a good point made by a left-wing journalist where she was making the point that there's been a lot of gamers who've gone more in the right-wing direction, and it's just because the right is more friendly to them, whereas the left accuses them of fucking everything. And I see that same thing happening in veganism, and that might be why I'm seeing more like vegans going to the far right, like this crazy fucking asshole Jack Green. He like, I did a live stream with him where I was debating Bering, and he used to be okay, and then he just went full Nazi, and he's a Hitler supporter, denies the Holocaust and everything.
Isn't it wild that people like that exist today? I feel like 3 or 4 years ago, like this actually wasn't a thing, you know?
Sort of like Flat Earth. But
yeah, it all kind of came back, didn't it?
But
And
I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing more of it. It's just that there's some crazy leftists who, you know, like, I'm not saying all people on the left wing, all intersectionalists are like this, but the people who are super loud, obnoxious, annoying, accuse you of everything, they're going to push you away from the left wing. And then when you start looking at videos like Sargon of Akkad making fun of SJWs, you're like, oh, finally, somebody who's listening to me. And then, it's easier to go down that rabbit hole where you find, pro-Nazi Hitler supporters who won't judge you, who are also against these SJWs.
Dude, I
And
completely agree with you.
well,
By the way.
and look, I'm seeing that in the vegan movement as well. That guy Darren Chang, who was responsible for getting me kicked off that speaking event. I've had multiple people contact me saying that the dude is a crazy racist who hates white people. He used to live over in Vancouver, and when he was in the vegan activist scene there, he'd constantly complain about white people, how they're trash, they're the devil. I've seen plenty of vegan activists on like Twitter complain about there not being enough representation of black women or minorities, and they complain about people like Earthling Ed, Joey Carbstrong, who are like light or white skinned, and I think that's probably part of the problem.
I want to
with,
disavow, by the way. I'd like it known to the public. I disavow
Sure.
hating white people. By the way, I agree with your assessment here. This is something that I've had difficulty with when talking to other left-leaning people. So because there's a balancing act here, right? Sometimes when people say, "Oh my God, the left with its cancel culture too exclusionary," they're literally like masked Nazis who are just trying to stir shit, or they're people who are mad that like left-leaning people don't like it when you go into their spaces and like call black people chimps. And I think those complaints can be safely discarded. But I do agree, like 100% with every fiber of my being, that the left has an issue with accommodation. That it would be much easier for us to assert ourselves in these spaces, not like taking them over, but to like express like, hey, maybe we could do things this way, or we should be more considerate of this or that. It would be much easier to do that if we were willing to, with some degree of partiality, listen to people's concerns and hear them out and make an effort to bring them into the fold, rather than excluding anyone who doesn't meet like an arbitrary purity test standard. I think that's really toxic, and I think that it whittles our numbers and makes the people who might have been on our side dislike us otherwise, because we ask so much more of them than reactionaries would,
Well, for sure, and I actually discussed this as well. I think there's a problem with the interpretation of intersectionality, where the interpretation that I've seen from these intersectional activists is they believe if you do not if you commit some sort of like microaggression, or you do something that they find offensive to one group, like when I dress up as a redneck and I make some sexist jokes because like that's the character, they assume that if they allow that to happen, they like accept that behavior, they're also going to accept racism, all forms of bigotry, along with that like little microaggression I created, because they believe all of these things are directly interwoven somehow, and if they don't attack even the most minor of things, they're going to basically be supporting all forms of bigotry, no matter how big or small. And I think that creates that sort of purity mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of this. I don't know if you're at all familiar with my content, or if you just saw someone like mention, or you'd heard my name before. But I make like pretty edgy jokes pretty often, and I'm pretty far left. I'm hiding my power level slightly. I'm like an anarchist, but in spite of that, I make edgy jokes. I make jokes about women. I make jokes about like people of all sorts, and I try to keep them on the positive side. But sometimes folks in the left do make it difficult for me to do my job, because I feel like they're more interested in tackling the aesthetics of bigotry than they are the substance. It's
I
really
absolutely
easy.
agree with that.
Yeah. Like, it's really easy to like see a YouTuber and like, oh, they called someone a bitch or a cunt. Like, oh shit, those are sex words, and to go after that, because it's very visible and very obvious. But dealing with the undercurrents, or like the more pernicious elements of bigotry that are usually the ones that lead to much more harm in the long term, that is a lot harder. And if you get the two confused, you get in unfortunate situations where you can be anti-racism and kick out people of an event because one time they made like some mild joke about like black people or race relations or something, like some SNL tier shit. But you can let people in who unironically say shit like they hate white people, because the aesthetics of saying you hate white people, even though it may belie substantial underlying issues with one's thought process, do not overlap with the aesthetics of genuine white supremacy. It's a big conflation, and it makes a lot of people unhappy, and I agree it's a serious problem.
Yeah, Slavoj Zizek, he, don't know if I'm pronouncing his name
wait,
wrong.
can you say that name again for me?
Slavoj Zizek?
All right. Is
that close enough? Anyway,
yeah,
I've seen him kind of make the same sentiment where it was kind of interesting. He thinks this PC culture, it actually promotes, like it actually makes it harder to fight against these forms of oppression. Like this, politically correct, being nice to everybody, nobody can make any jokes. It actually makes it more difficult to point out and fight these different forms of oppression.
Did you see that video of his?
On the Big Think.
Was it Vox or Vice, or I don't know who ran the segment or anything, or was it Russia Today? But yeah, he did like the segment that we saw, and he talked about how I think he talked about it in relation to capitalism also, and he was saying stuff like it's more difficult. The more pernicious elements of the class dynamic are obfuscated. You say they are your family, not your coworkers, and that sort of thing. Like not your boss, but like your team leader, that kind of shit. Yeah, I agree. Language is a vehicle for thought. It's not the thought itself. In many cases, it needs to be viewed a little bit more analytically than some people are willing to do so.
For sure. So like, what's your general opinion from like the goings on? Do you think intersectionality has really any meaningful place in vegan activism specifically?
I mean, I'm biased because I do what I do,
Yeah.
I would want to see like far left activism like seep into every corner of the planet if I could, because that's what I want. Probably in the same way that you would want to see animal cruelty abolished from that would lead to very substantial changes like systemically, societally. I would like to do the same for what I consider to be human rights. I think my only caveat here is that I would want it to be done to the extent that it encourages thoughtful mindedness amidst the people who are engaging in that action, veganism, intersectionality, and encourages people to get on board with both. The ideal goal would be, hey, left-leaning people who are big on intersectionality, you should probably include veganism as part of this. Like if you value sapient life, then you should value veganism, because it is the tool through which we liberate frankly, an oppressed class of existence. And likewise, hey vegans, if you're interested in the well-being of animals, it should follow then naturally the big brainedest animal of them all, you should consider ways in which we can, and so on and so forth. As long as that interaction is like non-toxic, I'm 100% in favor of it.
I'd agree with that, but it, like, to be as non-biased as possible, like, you did touch upon the point that veganism is pretty broad. It kind of does touch upon topics like, not technically racism, but speciesism, sexism, basic rights being taken away. Do you think just for promoting veganism specifically, intersectionality has any real role?
Yeah, I think so. Big points that I could say would be that, so a lot of people don't view it this way, but global warming is largely a class issue. It's generally the poor who suffer the most from it. Same with pollution, for example. There have been studies showing that the poor and people of color are disproportionately affected by pollution because they tend to be crowded into like inner city urban areas that suffer the most, smog. And meat consumption contributes like astronomically to both of those things, pollution and to carbon emissions. I think that disproportionately affects the poor and people of color by way of the two being proxy for one another. People of color tend to be poor. And I think you can make really good arguments in favor of veganism on that basis alone. Even if you didn't give a fuck about the animals, you could be like, hey, we have this industry that, you know, leave aside the ethics of the industry itself, contributes to climate change in a way that will disproportionately hamper this group and that group. And the pollution it emits disproportionately affects these people. And then you can, if you wanted to get into capitalism, you could talk about how the meat industry has been responsible for some ludicrously shady shit that's going on in the American legislature, not even to fucking count the other countries' legislators. I mean, I don't know. I'm an American. The only country that actually exists. All the other ones are fake. I think that if you really dig into it, there are a lot of there are many ways in which the world and the people in it would like systemically benefit from the end to factory farming, an end to meat eating, at least for now, like before we get high-tech future lab-grown meat. And I could make arguments for it on the basis of that. Same way a lot of people who don't care about the planet will argue against global warming, not to save the planet, but rather to save us because we live on it, you know?
Sure, I'd agree with that. Usually when so, no, it's cool. Like, I've made arguments like that when trying to convince feminists to go vegan, and the thing is, I don't know if it's... the way I'm seeing, like, intersectionalism being incorporated into vegan activism, it seems like it doesn't actually... It's not actually meant to convince... It's not being used to target a certain section of the population that could actually benefit from this sort of knowledge. It's just it's as if, you know, if you were going to protest a slaughterhouse and you held up feminism signs. It's basically like that. They bring up topics that are totally unrelated, and it just makes it confusing for people on the outside who are watching this.
I wouldn't agree with that, by the way. I think that when you dilute issues to that extent, things get like, it just gets harder to advocate. Like you start showing up at like fucking Black Lives Matter rallies with like the fucking feminist like pussy hat thing. I don't know. It seems like you're mixing stuff up a little bit. I will say this though, and I think that this is like the hard point to bring in it. At the end of the day, coalition building is what wins both of us the day. I mean, someone very interested in lefty politics, very much want everyone on board with my way of thinking. And likewise with you, with veganism. I mean, that's how we win, right? And the best way to do so is to ensure that there is the greatest degree of coalition building made possible between all groups with common interests. And it is easy to make the vegan argument to progressive people, because progressive people are already in many cases willing to make sacrifices to their life to ensure the betterment, the well-being of others. And I think vice versa for many vegans. They're already making that sacrifice. A little bit of conscientiousness about society tends to come along with it. By implementing the two, veganism into intersectional circles and intersectionalism to vegan circles, you coalition build. You demonstrate a degree of synchronicity between the two groups, and that makes both of them much stronger. We could stand to benefit quite a bit from shared interests.
The only thing that, like, again, I agree, cooperating with different political groups is advantageous. It's just that, like, I've been seeing this happening where veganism is, it seemed like at least people's perception of it, it's becoming more and more of a left-wing thing. And I don't like the idea of having veganism get recognized as a left-wing issue. I'd like people, even Nazis, I'd like it if Nazis were to go vegan, you know what I mean? Obviously, I'd prefer them not to be Nazis, but, you know, people, even more, even just, you know, moderate right-wingers, I'd like to be able to see them go vegan, and I'm seeing people just not be interested in veganism because it's being conflated with crazy, far left-wing, social justice, intersectional feminists who are in support of all the crap that people hate, like deplatforming.
Well, to be fair, people have been saying that about vegans for decades, and that's because veganism has always been fairly left-leaning. Sometimes it's leaned more into the traditionally leftist anti-capitalist, but more recently it's been more of a progressive thing. For the reasons I said before, I think there is a shared interest here. I think that while there will be eco-fascists who jump in on this, and, you know, there will probably be some vegan conservatives, veganism is already intrinsically a component of progressive thought because you are, you know, rather than just accepting this natural hierarchy between you and animals where you reign supreme and may do what you wish, you are instead saying, dismantle the hierarchy, let them live well. And I think that's a fundamentally left-leaning take. I think that veganism is not, if not intrinsically, but at the very least heavily associated with leftism. And for that reason, I think embracing that union, maybe finding ways to clean up the optics a little bit, I think it's a better way forward than trying to pretend that veganism, with all of its ties to leftism historically, is this completely apolitical, neutral thing when it's already so tied to the welfare of others, anti-pollution, and in some cases, anti-capitalism.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. There are definitely some aspects of veganism that I think even people on the right would appreciate, like protection of life. There's definitely a lot of religious Christians. I mean, there's fucking Adventists who, in their religion, they're not allowed to eat meat. So, you know, these ideas, thou shalt not kill, love thy neighbor, treat others the way you'd want to be treated. There's also, you know, passages in the Bible where, you know, God commands, you know, like it's pretty clear that, you know, in the Bible, God wanted people to just eat plants. So I've made those arguments when talking to, you know, people who are on the right wing, especially religious. So I don't know if it's
maybe.
Well, yeah,
I don't
James.
know. A lot of
James, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, like those folks, sure. A lot of fundamental Christians are kind of responsible for the shit state the world's in, because they believe the rapture's coming and that God gave them dominion over the earth as a lion would over the savannah, right? So we can do whatever we will to the earth. It's all fine. Jesus.
There's well, there's different. I can't remember. There's a version that says dominion. There's another version that says something else. But you could interpret dominion as like taking care of, not just controlling outright, you know, as if you were just some sort of slave master. You know,
Hey, you could just there's such a union right now between
Sure.
Fundamental Christians, Republicans, and the big businesses that have bought their politicians. Don't get me wrong; it's a valid argument. Like if one cared about the Bible, American Christians. I don't think
Sure,
they do
sure.
that often.
Well, you know, like honestly, even non-religious people, just people who don't identify with any sort of religious ideology, who are still right-wing, most people just like animals. Most people don't want to see animals get hurt, and I don't think most people would kill and eat an animal themselves. So I think veganism is a thing that pretty much everyone can agree with, even if they are on the right or left wing.
Well,
And
they
again,
could, but many of them don't.
well, I do agree with you that there are cultural trends where people who tend to be more leaning, more progressive, they have a higher likelihood to go vegan. It's a number of reasons. There's factors like, just being more intelligent, caring about things, being more responsible. But I think veganism is for everyone, and especially seeing as how just the movement right now is being poisoned by these insane people, these insane intersectionalists. I don't like it being conflated with just the left wing.
I mean,
I'd rather it be seen as just something that everyone can agree with, that, yeah, killing animals is wrong, and whether you're on the right or left wing, it's just something we can agree on, like child rape. I'm sure everyone on the left and right can agree, like, that's horrible.
I've talked to some folks on the right who might disagree with your take on that.
Yeah.
I think like I'm more familiar with like the broader left movement, and you're more familiar with the broader vegan movement. So both of us are, at least in regards to our personal experiences, going to talk past each other a little bit. I think there's enough of a union between the interests of left-leaning people in the interests of vegans, as demonstrated, and you just said, you know, generally speaking, if you're vegan, you're more likely to be left-leaning than if you're not vegan, if you're omnivoric. I think there's enough of a union there that some kind of synchronicity should be built to capitalize on an existing union, to bolster the strength of both. But I do agree with you. Veganism shouldn't be considered like just for the left. Obviously, if there are like event masters, event coordinators who for vegan movements who are losing their shit and acting all cringe like, you know, about white people and, you know, getting too heated over a joke or two in a YouTube video. I think that people like this probably need to consider their senses a bit, take hold of their faculties, maybe be let go of the positions of power they hold. I would like to see the leftism and veganism like unity branch be one based on mutual collaborative effort and a desire to change both groups for the better, to make more left-leaning people vegan, which I think is needed, and more vegan people left-leaning, which, you know, I also think is needed. My chat's always on my ass for not being vegan, so that's
yeah, maybe we could have another debate later on. I know you're going to have one with Ask Yourself, right?
I did, yeah. I would agree with every prescriptive statement that you would make. The only thing that I would say in response, and this is sort of where I came at the gap to with Ask Yourself, is I believe that people shouldn't be held responsible for their consumptive decision making in the same way that I wouldn't impugn you for wearing clothing made by slaves. I wouldn't have you impugn me morally for eating the corpses of animals. I always think it's a good thing to go vegan. It's always better to do so. It makes you a better person. I just don't think it's morally obligatory.
Okay, I know this wasn't the topic of debate, but no. Did you want to go down this rabbit hole?
Yeah, we can probably hit the quick points. Yeah, hit me up. Let's do it. All right, chat gets real feisty. Let's go.
Okay, so you're saying that you don't believe somebody should be responsible for their consumption, like their economic choices.
Yeah, I think that from the perspective of a consumer, there is a degree of abstraction associated with purchasing a product that that from a virtue ethicist perspective sort of negates the moral ungood, the moral wrong that we've committed, because we buy shit all the time that's made, the silicon farmed by slaves in Africa, plastic made in, like, you know, factory farms that pollute the earth, like that sort of thing, but we don't impugn each other for it.
Okay, so if you were to, so, you know, there's pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography. Would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes.
Really? Even though they're directly supporting child rape?
Yeah. I think it's hypocritical. If I bought my computer and the silicon in it was farmed in Africa by slaves, if I can do that and that's legal and no one's going to call me out on my shit, then yeah, I have to be consistent in that respect.
Okay, look, I think there's levels to this. So I wouldn't equate buying a computer to buying child pornography. I mean, it's, in order to pretty much have a job anymore, you need a computer. So do you really think it's reasonable to equate something like buying something that might cause some amount of cruelty, exploitation in the world, that you need for your job, just to be able to, like, not be homeless, to something that you're buying purely for very shallow personal pleasure that causes horrible, irreparable damage to somebody lifelong?
I mean, we can actually, like, partition it out. I don't know how much child pornography goes on the market these days. I haven't exactly checked, but I'd be willing to bet that the total amount of suffering that goes into the child slaves that mine out, like, the silicon in Africa, you know, in terms of me supporting that industry, I mean, that's pretty bad. And I didn't have to buy a computer this big. I could have bought something smaller. I could have bought a little Chromebook. You know, I don't wonder how many more hours slaves had to mine up that silicon to justify me being able to own this.
Well, it's not silicon. It's elements like coltan.
I'm pretty sure silicon is also mined up by slaves, but and have to
No,
refine my
silicon
argument.
is pretty damn abundant. You can get it everywhere. It's elements like coltan,
All right, well,
and
let's
those
go with
are
coltan
mostly
then.
found in the Congo.
But I'd
Well,
go
the
with it
thing
too.
is,
Clothing I wear, put together by slave shop work or sweatshop workers. Sorry, glasses, like everything. And if you wanted to step beyond the slavery element, like all of the stuff that I buy, it goes towards corporations. I believe that wage slavery is unethical, the exploitation of workers, and everything you buy contributes to that, unless you're buying from a
okay,
co-op.
well, look, there are, like, I think we could both agree that reducing suffering in the world is a good thing, correct? Even if you can't get rid of all of it at once?
It's always a good thing to reduce suffering. Yes.
Right, so if you can make just a very simple change that could save a cow's life, like rather than buying a burger from, well, now you can fucking go to McDonald's and buy a fucking vegan burger. Like, rather than getting a normal McDonald's burger, just choosing to get the Beyond Burger. Like, don't you think you have a bit of a moral responsibility when you can make such a simple decision like that? Like,
I
if
will
I could,
say, oh,
well,
yeah.
listen, like, if I could, like, I need a graphics card processor for my computer. I edit every day. If I could buy a graphics card or processor that was nearly as good but didn't require slave labor, then yeah, I'd get those components.
I mean that's good. That's a good thing. No human being is capable of applying that standard to everything in their life.
You don't have
Of
to.
course. Well, no, of
I'm
course
not
not.
expecting you. It's just that, like,
It's your choice, and I don't think you should be morally impugned for not being able to do that in every respect. So, for instance, maybe I eat meat, and that does contribute to harm in the world. However, maybe I own one less car than you do, or maybe there's some other way in which my purchasing habits mean that I've contributed less harm to the world. I think that vegans get a little bit myopic, associating themselves only with one way in which our purchasing choices can harm people and ignoring all of the others. When I point out there are many other ways in which our purchases hurt people, they'll say, oh, what aboutism? Why can't you do this? And I could make the same argument to you. Why couldn't you do that? Why drive when you could bike? At the end of the day, our society is structured in such a way to ensure that it is virtually impossible to live without funding unethical industries. Every time you don't fund them, that's a good thing, but I don't think you're a bad person for not doing that.
okay, well, the issue, I've talked about this with Ask Yourself, some other activists like Paul Bashir. The issue is when you're buying these products, so computer components that require coltan to be produced, clothing that was made in some sort of sweatshop in India or something. You're not actually lowering the quality of life of these people. I would argue anyway. These
Well,
people are
that's a
doing
whole
these.
other-
Well,
that's
there
a whole
are.
other
Okay, well,
one.
listen. There are certain circumstances where I'd say you might be. I know in the Congo there was a problem with warlords taking over fucking mines and then them literally committing slavery. The UN has gotten involved in those sorts of things. I don't know how common that is anymore, and I do know there's tax penalties on companies that buy from those areas. But no, I would argue that you're not actually reducing the quality of life, or at the very fucking least, just brutally murdering someone, like literally slitting their throats open when you buy a t-shirt. So yeah, the working conditions in like India, like these sweatshops in India where they're making t-shirts, they're not great, but that's the best job available to them in that area. If that job wasn't there, okay, they'd be working in a field somewhere, or maybe they wouldn't have any work at all, and they'd just be entirely living off the land.
Whoa.
So they're.
Cows,
So look, I.
Same with
sorry?
cows, right?
What?
I mean, they'd be all dead if we weren't factory farming them, huh?
Yeah, they'd be better off not existing.
Yeah, they're cute though. I mean,
Okay, well,
so
wait. I know you're being a bit facetious here.
No, they're
but
cute.
Are
Wait.
you?
No, wait, I just meant they're cute.
No, I know you're being a bit facetious here with that like kind of joke, but like, dude.
But I do think they're cute. Wait, cows are actually really cute. I'm not being facetious.
No, that's not the point I was making. The thing is, are you really saying that you'd rather live you'd rather experience what the cow experiences, where it's brought into the world literally through rape. It's tortured and neglected its entire life. Like, its testicles are cut off without any anesthesia. It's locked in a small confined area,
I don't want
suffers
any
from
of these
shit-like
things.
infections, and then its throat is slit open while it's fully conscious. And I've seen the shit personally.
No, I
There's a
don't want it. I
slaughterhouse
don't
in
want any of
Toronto.
these things.
Well, look, when you buy meat, that is what you're supporting.
But I
When
don't
you
want
buy
people. Wait, but I don't
well,
want slaves either. I don't want people working in sweatshops.
well, no, listen. When you're buying a T-shirt, you're not necessarily reducing their quality of life, even though
No,
their
no,
life
no, wait,
might
hold on.
not
Sorry,
be
wait,
great.
hold on. I have to challenge you on this point.
Okay.
The idea that, like, if it weren't for all the good t-shirt jobs we were giving them, all these sweatshop laborers would have no choice but to go back to subsistence farming. I very strongly disagree. Developing nations' industries are deliberately kept hamstring by the World Bank and IMF, so American industries can export their slave labor to places where there are lower standards of labor, longer work days, and lower wages. If it weren't for the demand for these products, we would not be able to manufacture the economic and political capital to do this. All these systems, these aren't just like, they don't just like exist because they're there and we have to take advantage of them because otherwise, like, there'd be no alternative. That's the same argument a meat eater could make. Oh, the animal is just going to die at the factory anyway. Who cares if I pick up the meat at the grocery market? It's already been made. These systems exist because we perpetuate it. Every one of the hundreds of thousands or even millions of people who work in sweatshops right now are kept there in large part because of American industry, because people like me need our designer t-shirts and our Teesprings and what have you, with the anime icons on top of them. All of these people, billions of people worldwide, are kept in poverty because the global underclass is necessitated through the existence of global international capitalism. I reject this argument that all other forms of systemic oppression are merely these emergent, exigent properties that we should take advantage of while we're here, because otherwise, like, what's the point? There's no alternative that is better for them anyway. I think that we meaningfully do harm, real harm, when we buy a t-shirt or what have you. Even when we pay taxes, I mean, every tax dollar that we go to the government, this gets sent to subsidies, war profiteers and what have you, the wars we send, the millions of people we kill. These are all decisions that we make, though admittedly, I don't know if paying your taxes is much of a free decision. I'm not saying that it's like that you shouldn't go vegan. I really think you should. I'm only saying that there are many ways in which our purchasing decisions influence the world, and vegans only seem to care about morally condemning people for one, as opposed to the many other ways. I'm pretty sure that in total harm done to the planet, owning a car rather than driving a bike outweighs like decades of meat eating, just for the amount of smog you're putting in the atmosphere and the amount of economic and environmental damage it does after the fact. That's all I'm saying. I agree with you on every prescription, and I want to see the meat industry taken down. I just won't say people are bad for not going vegan.
Okay, so the argument you're basically making is there's other ways to commit harm that most of us are engaged in. It's just that vegans are only focusing on one. What's the issue with that? Why not start with that one thing you're contributing to? That's very fucking easy to change, by the way. Trying to buy clothing that isn't made in some like poor country with a sweatshop, that's a lot more difficult. If you're going to go to order clothes online, if you're going to go to any local store, it's hard to track down clothing that is actually made with fair trade. So, I mean, it's a lot fucking easier to do that with food.
I have never bought this argument that going vegan like is easy, but even if we were to take that as the case, if vegans wanted to admit, like, yes, I will morally impugn people for this one way in which their consumptive practices hurt the world, and we'll ignore the 30 other ones that I also engage in, we'll just focus on this one because this one makes me feel good, then sure. But at that point, you're basically justifying hypocrisy. Why can't we say we should fight against all forms of systemic injustice as relentlessly as possible, but recognize that different people are capable of contributing to that process in different ways, and not morally condemn those who don't?
Okay, well, Vaush, you're going to have to actually come up with an argument for why veganism is so difficult that you can't reasonably expect somebody to follow that.
No, veganism could be the easiest thing in the world, and I would still stand by this argument because there are probably very easy ways that that most people could like reduce their carbon footprint or make the world a better place through their consumptive habits. You know, even if veganism was like an on-off switch, but it's not, mind you. I mean, I love me some fucking cheese and sour cream. Okay, that's my
Look,
shit.
do you
Don't like eggs, though.
Are you understanding what you're saying? Like, you could literally make the same argument about child pornography. Like, okay, it's harder to find child pornography. Okay, you're gonna have to go on the dark web, find some pornography dealer, pay them a ton of money to like capture a child and rape them on camera, and like you're saying that you shouldn't have a responsibility not to support that.
Well, yeah, I don't think people should be held responsible for their consumptive decisions. On a moral level.
Even when it comes to jumping through so many hoops to pay for a child to get horribly, horribly abused just so that you can reach peak sexual arousal.
If I wanted to right now, I could like dig really hard on the internet and find a necklace made of blood diamonds that were procured through like combat between like warlords in the Sudan, you know? And I could buy that and nobody would call me a piece of shit for doing it. I'd just wear the necklace and it'd look real pretty on my neck.
I think most people wouldn't call you out on that just because they're unaware of where the diamonds came from.
What? Why not?
What do you mean? Okay, if somebody's wearing a diamond necklace, you don't know if it's real, fake, if they're, synthesized diamonds. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure if people actually knew where they came from...
Okay, we're venturing a little bit into hyperbole here, because I'm pretty sure... Again, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to buy child pornography on the dark web, so I don't know who's like going out of their way. Whatever the case may be, it just frustrates me that there are so many ways in which the things we buy and the products we consume affect the world detrimentally, but vegans are only interested in condemning people in this one way. For this one like specific subset, you know? Nobody does this for cars versus bikes. Nobody goes around looking at people with cars and goes like, you really could have gotten a bike. Do you have any idea how much damage you're doing to the environment? Not just in the construction of that vehicle. Do you have any idea how much fucking pollution is being thrown out through the exhaust? Nobody does that. We recognize like, oh, maybe that person just has a long commute. Maybe that person just likes having a car they can blast music out of. We don't really give them shit for it. But we can all agree, whether we own cars or bikes, that things should probably be done about pollution, about global warming, about the auto industry. That's what I want to see done with veganism.
Okay, I see two issues here. I can agree with you on some level, but I see two big issues here. For one thing, you're treating all of these things as if they're equal. Supporting a Holocaust, supporting horrible, horrible child abuse, like literally child rape, is not the same thing as buying a car or buying a t-shirt. So I think it's totally...
Wait, we do support
well, no,
Holocaust.
Listen, I think it's totally unreasonable to claim that, yeah, supporting some crazy ongoing Holocaust of animals or supporting the rape of children is the same as buying a t-shirt that was made in a sweatshop in India. I think that's insane to claim.
Wait, why not? We're literally, our system of global capitalism is literally keeping hundreds of millions of human beings in squalid poverty. That's more suffering than that's more suffering than the literal Holocaust committed. And we keep that in part because we sustain the capitalist system that fuels it.
Look, I would disagree with that. I'd say the amount of suffering created in the animal agriculture industry and the amount of suffering and injustice that happened in the Holocaust is not equivalent to the issues with worldwide poverty that's being sustained, because of the systems you're mentioning.
I mean, secondly, millions die from malnutrition, from a lack of access to like medical care. All of this is being done under the watch of systems that are perfectly capable of sustaining the livelihood of these people. We do it because it's more profitable to do it, and it's more profitable to do it because we buy T-shirts from T-shirt companies. Again, it's myopic. It's in the same way that you believe veganism should be open to everyone, not just people who are on board with intersectionalism, I believe that systemic critiques of society and the problems with our consumptive habits should belong to everyone, whether or not they themselves are capable of or willing to abstain from certain consumptive habits. And it's weird to me that I get basically woke scolded, which is what's happening right now by you and my chat, for not being vegan from people who will readily and willingly admit that they do other things they could have avoided doing that also hurt the world. It's weird. Like,
okay, well, that's another point I was going to get to. My second point is that you're going to have a difficult time actually proving, because this is going to be a topic of contention, that buying at least certain products from certain areas with a certain supply chain is demonstrably going to have a negative impact on the lives of people who are in that supply chain. Whereas in the animal agriculture industry, you know with 100% certainty that you are actually contributing to making something worse.
No, I would strongly disagree with that. I mean, I'm an anti-capitalist. I think funneling any money into a capitalist system is unethical because I don't believe wage slavery is ethical.
Okay, well, wait a second. I don't even understand what this has to do with capitalism. Like, you're basically saying any exchange of goods, essentially, is...
In a capitalist system, because there's wage exploitation.
Why? Okay,
a portion of the wage, the surplus labor, the surplus value gets exploited. It gets taken by the owner. I think that's an unethical process, and I prop it up when I buy things from capitalist industries.
Okay. The issue is, though, like, the same sort of exploit... Well, look, the issue is you can still have exploitation in a socialist or communist system.
Well, yeah, but not that form of exploitation. Wage slavery wouldn't...
Okay, sure, maybe not that form... Okay, well, maybe not that form of exploitation, but I'm sure you... sorry, I'm sure you could have other forms of exploitation, so... Again, this doesn't even have anything to do with capitalism. You're just...
Well, no, it does, because that's the reason why I say it's unethical to buy anything from a capitalist industry. It's because of wage exploitation. Whereas if it was socialist, it would be ethical, because in that respect, the wage exploitation would no longer exist. So my argument would be less sound if we lived in a socialist society. I'll admit that. But right now, every single dollar I put into any industry will invariably go to people who have the class interests of you and me opposed diametrically to their own, assuming you and I are proletarian. And I think that's unethical. So I could inure myself to the inescapable immorality of buying anything in this system, or I can recognize that it is possible to at once fight for systemic change while wallowing in the consumptive habits that you would like to see others stop. Or, as someone once put it, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Okay, even given that, this argument you're creating still doesn't really make any sense. You could still have exploitation with some sort of transaction of goods. Oh,
well, sure,
so
but not
I'm
intrinsically.
still... Well, what does it matter if it's intrinsic?
Because then it's possible to have those exchange of goods without there being that oppressive element. Like right now, if you bought from a worker co-op, I don't think that would be inherently unethical. Because the wealth would be distributed equally amongst those who work there, not to some owner.
Okay. But
I
still...
agree. I want to see the world rid of meat farming just as much as you. I just think that people shouldn't be too selective with which consumptive habits they condemn other people for and which consumptive habits they brush over.
Okay, so I'm still not understanding how this even matters with regards to capitalism. Because, again, the argument I'm making here is that just because you're making some sort of exchange in goods, that doesn't mean automatically you're going to be ruining the life of somebody else.
No,
whereas in the whereas in the animal agriculture industry, you absolutely are.
Well, no, because in a capitalist system, even
under capitalism, like, this is another issue. Like, you're equating all forms of injustice, like even wage slavery, even unequal pay. You're equating that to literally torturing and murdering animals.
Well, no. I mean, I don't want to, like, the idea that, like, capitalism begins and ends with people not being paid as much as they should is not the case. Again, a third of the world is kept in perpetual poverty, and it's through the IMF and World Bank, which are the capitalist arms of the Western world. These are very substantial problems. Not to mention the wars we wage. I mean, God, Coca-Cola just with the death squads in Colombia. I mean, there's so much. The argument that I'm making fundamentally is that so in regards to the capitalist issue, wage exploitation or surplus labor being extracted from the laborer is when you work a job and you produce $15 worth of widgets during the time that you work, you're paid for 10 of them. 5 of those dollars worth of value gets extracted from you. It's thrown right up to the owner or to the manager and then to their manager and so on and so forth. There's a chain. But it gets taken from you. And I think that's a form of slavery. You're not really getting you're getting expropriated. You're not really getting the full compensation for your labor. It's a pretty fundamental element of anti-capitalist critique. I think it's essentially tantamount to slavery, though admittedly, much better than chattel slavery. I got it, I'm not drawing an equivacy between those two. And anytime you buy anything from any capitalist firm, you are contributing to that process because that's how the money rolls there. It wouldn't be the case at a worker co-op, because it would be distributed evenly amongst those who work there, but worker co-ops are pretty few and far between.
Your argument seems to boil down to we can't get rid of all forms of exploitation, so therefore I have reasonable grounds to support one form of exploitation.
No, but don't you realize that's already coming from a point of bias? You could say the same thing about cars. What if I was an anti-car advocate and I wanted the car and bicycle thing? I would be making the same argument to you, wouldn't I? You would be like, oh, well, sure, okay, cool, you don't eat animals, great. But what about the car? Like, what you're saying, what you're accusing me of doing essentially is whataboutism. I'm saying I don't have to do good here because there's so much bad everywhere. I'm not saying there's so much bad everywhere, therefore I don't have to do this good thing. I'm saying our entire lives and every element of our culture is saturated in harm when we make consumptive decisions. And for that reason...
Why not reduce that harm?
You should. It's a good thing too. I just don't think you're a bad person for not doing it. And if you were walking down the street and you had $100 in your wallet and we passed by a homeless person, I wouldn't give you shit for not giving all 100 of those dollars to the homeless person, even though they sure as shit need it more than you do. That would be a good thing of you to do, but I wouldn't give you shit for not doing it. Because I recognize there's a difference between doing good and being obligated to do good.
This is sounding very close to an appeal to futility.
No, it's not that it's futile. I want to demolish the meat industry and capitalism. Those are both two essential pillars of what I'm in favor of. What I'm saying is that you can't morally impugn people.
Well, you know what? Let me just make it very simple for you. What is your excuse for eating meat?
I don't need an excuse for eating meat. Do you need an excuse for not giving the homeless person $100? You're a pretty successful YouTuber. I'm sure you have spare money you could be donating to charities right now.
Not right now, I don't.
You want to make excuses for that?
Yeah, well, not right now, I don't. And I do occasionally donate to charity. They're mostly animal charities.
Was it really necessary of you to buy that expensive chair you're sitting on right now? Yeah. Those headphones are nicer than mine. I'm wearing $6 earbuds. Do you have excuses for why those money didn't go to people here? Like, you could do this forever!
Okay, well, look. Well, no, again, you're equivocating. Like, you're making... This is just, again, you keep making this false equivalence that every single action you do, it could be optimized in some sort of way. Therefore, you don't have to optimize any decision.
I'm saying there's a difference between doing a good thing and being morally obligated to do a good thing. I think it's a good thing to be vegan. You think it's morally obligatory to be vegan, in that I'm a bad person if I don't. But you and I both agree it's good to donate to charity, but we don't think it's morally obligatory to donate every spare cent you have to charity. We recognize this distinction in other respects. A lot of vegans don't.
Okay, well, look, I think that's because we value our own personal freedoms, and even if we have this idea that we don't just live for the well-being of others, we also have to respect our own personal wishes, but there's limits to that. When your own personal actions have such a negative impact on other people or beings around you, that's when your own personal freedoms come to an end. And what you're doing here is saying, okay, well, if you're going to criticize me for buying meat, well, okay, I could criticize you for buying that pair of headphones. You could have bought a tiny little pair of earbuds, and that would have, I don't know, spared somebody slave labor in some other country.
You could have literally saved like a dozen people's lives with the money it took to buy those headphones.
Whatever. The thing is...
Exactly!
No.
We need to work on breaking down the system, because fuck it, whatever, dude. I can't optimize every single personal consumptive decision I make to optimize well-being. We wouldn't expect that from anyone else.
That's right, but it's like, look, veganism is so incredibly easy to do.
It doesn't matter how easy it is. It would be easy to give the $100 to the homeless person. It'd be the easiest thing in the world. You're so ripped, dude. You could literally flex the wallet out of your jeans pocket. It'd be incredibly easy for you to do so. But I wouldn't call you a bad person for not doing it. Again, this is why we agree on every prescriptive judgment. I'm so in favor of every judgment vegans have about the world, and I argue about this all the time. I want the meat industries. I would support eco-terrorism against them. Put the CEOs in there, and everything else is TOS. Okay, I'm so on board with it. I just think it is hypocritical to selectively decide which elements of the consumptive process you're going to morally impugn people for. And that's it. That's the only difference that you and I have. We will still fight towards the same goals. We still agree fundamentally in the same points.
Okay, so if this were like, I don't know, 200 years ago, would you say the same thing about the African slave trade?
The only, and I think that's a good counter, the only differentiation I would make there is that I would not fault someone for buying a slave. I would fault someone for owning a slave. I think that the consumptive decision is above moral rebuke. The decision to keep a slave, however, continues that process. The ethical thing to do there would be to buy the slave and then in the next moment free them, or something like that. I think that's where it falls apart, because it's after the point of consumption, the harm continues with slavery, because they're...
Then you'd be against animal agriculture.
I am against animal agriculture.
Well, then you'd consider it a moral obligation to be against animal agriculture.
I do. I think it's
because that's
yes,
exactly...
I think you're a bad person if you're not against moral agriculture. Just
no. Based on the argument you just gave, you would be morally obligated to not support animal agriculture.
Yeah, I don't. Except for consumptively.
Well, you do.
Well, consumptively, yes. In the same way that I would support slavery consumptively, but not in any other way. Because you'd free them right after you've consumed the product, so to speak.
Okay, so if we were to if in a hypothetical reality where we were using black people as meat, what would you say then?
We always gotta get so grim.
No, let's cover that.
Like if it was the same thing, like with animals.
Yeah, if we had fields of black people, and once they reached a certain age, once they were nice and big and meaty, we killed and ate them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still buy that fucking.
I'd
still buy that dark meat from the supermarket. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. I think that animals are morally equivocal to people. Yeah, I'd be a hypocrite if I said otherwise. White people too. Get that both cuts.
Okay, that's that's like Destiny level of insanity.
No, I just don't think people should be... Wait, you say that, but you buy stuff from industries that literally like have slave labor. You buy stuff from industries that profiteer off of wars. Like Coca-Cola literally ran death squads in Latin America. Have you ever bought a Coke? Well, I don't actually. They're probably not vegan.
I actually don't buy soda.
Okay, that's soda. I don't like soda either. But like if you bought a Coke anytime over the past decade, you're literally funding people who are paying death squads to run around gunning down like labor organizers so that Coca-Cola can continue to get its like low fucking like bargain basement cost of harvesting.
Okay. So here's the issue I'm seeing. You're basically saying you're guilty of every You seem to make the assumption that you're guilty of every single transaction, every single monetary transaction you make. So if you gave somebody $5 for a hat, if that person you gave $5 to is putting that $5 towards slavery or uses that $5 to fund a death squad, you are now responsible for that.
That's your position with the meat. That's not my position. I don't think you're morally responsible for for your consumptive decisions.
Okay, well, that's weird. Your explanation, it sounds like you want it both ways then.
No, I think that we do horrible things with the dollars that we spend, all of us, and we should work to collapse those systems. However, again, no ethical consumption under capitalism. There's no way to live life ethically under this system unless you want to go become a woodsman or something. And even then, you'll probably fuck up somehow. You'll probably have to eat animals if you're a woodsman, right? Unless you get a farm started real quick. Whatever the case may be, I think it is good to fight against these bad things. It's always good to maximize well-being. I don't think it makes you a bad person to not do so. For the same reason I wouldn't impugn you for not spending more money donating to fucking whatever. I don't donate any money to charity. Fuck it. I'm way too paranoid about one day losing all of this. And nobody calls me out for it. I get called out for eating meat once a week, though. It's very strange to me. I don't know. We share so many of the same goals.
Okay, well, I think the reason people are calling you out for eating meat is just because, again, they don't equate every single financial transaction as some sort of act of cruelty or exploitation. And on top of that, I don't think they accept the idea that every transaction you make somehow harms someone else.
Only in the capitalist framework because of wage exploitation. I don't. I mean, there are people who don't believe, like people like Destiny, for example, who don't give a fuck because they don't believe that animals deserve any kind of like ethical rights. You know, that you should be able to just murder or beat or torture animals all you want. They deserve no moral consideration. That's a moral framework that would allow you to like not be a vegan and for it to be perfectly ethical. Like legitimately, if you just don't give them ethical consideration. Now, I think everyone does, whether they know it or not. But I think you're in the same boat. You're kind of like Destiny in that respect. You don't see the fundamental harm that is done to the world by propping up the capitalist superstructures we live in, because that's just not.
I never said I was pro-capitalist.
Well, no, but to the extent that I am, I imagine I'm more anti-capitalist than you, at least judging by the arguments that we're making here.
I'm not exactly sure on that. I think capitalism is sort of a part of an evolution to a better monetary system, but with things like automation, capitalism just isn't going to live forever. I think technology is just going to make the idea obsolete.
Uh-oh.
So,
are you a Yang fan?
I don't totally agree with everything he says, but he does make a good point about universal basic income.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad, fuck capitalism. I'll agree with anyone who doesn't like capitalism. Whatever the case may be.
Well, look, I agree with you that it's...
Nazis don't like capitalism.
Well, look, I agree with you that there is a level of exploitation with every transaction you make within capitalism, and just inherently it's a mathematical certainty that you're going to have poverty under capitalism. So I think it's kind of stupid. We could do better than that, but yeah, I think we'd agree there, but... Yeah, I just see capitalism.
Fuck yeah! I mean, it's more radical than fucking most people are. I understand, like, these arguments get lost in the weeds really quickly. The only point that I'm really, really adamant about making, it's not that appeal to futility, the world is terrible, there's no point in trying. It's only that in most instances, people assign no moral value whatsoever to one's unwillingness to engage in consumptive behaviors that would increase well-being. So. Spending more time to buy the couch that wasn't made by the company that did this. Spending more time to buy the food that wasn't farmed using migrant labor. Finding all the little ways to optimize your consumptive decisions to make the world a little less shitty of a place. Nobody will call you a bad person for not doing that. Nobody will. Absolutely nobody. Now, people will say you're good if you do those things. They'll go ahead and say, oh, that's very nice of you. You shop conscientiously, blah, blah, blah. but no one will condemn you. But vegans will condemn you. They'll say you're a bad person if you don't, well, if you're not vegan. And I agree, you're probably a bad person if you don't believe in animal rights. You're probably a bad person if you don't believe in ending the meat industry and what have you. I want those systems gone. But in regards to the other examples I gave,
well, look, if you want these systems gone, then why would you support them?
Well, I mean, I want like capitalism gone, but I support it too.
Well, dude, that's a bit different. Like, I mean, you're living in the real world where there's practical issues. Like, okay, it's kind of unreasonable to expect you to go totally homeless so that you don't support capitalism. And
I could support less unethical industries, probably.
Well, here's the thing. It's very easy not to support the animal agriculture industry, and you're making it seem as if all of these... No, it is. Okay, well, do you want to try?
Oh, no. Well, it doesn't matter to me. Again, even if going vegan was the easiest thing in the world, so is giving money to the homeless person you pass. But we still don't impute people for not doing it.
Okay, well,
so
the thing... Okay, well, wait. Well, wait. The difference there is you're helping someone, whereas the difference with the animal agriculture industry is you're just not promoting that suffering.
Okay, well then I think that's a meaningless distinction. The positive and the negative of preventing and enabling harm. Well, then you could say like, oh, I'm not actually hurting anyone. I'm just buying meat that's already dead. But if you want to maintain that distinction, then fine. Buying a Coca-Cola, which goes towards a corporation that funds death squads. I mean, we don't morally impugn people for buying Coca-Cola.
Well, no, that doesn't make any sense. That's like saying, oh, well, I'm not paying for murder when I pay for a hitman.
Well, I don't think we're paying for any of it because I think we're absolved of the responsibility. I think it's always frustrating me because I feel like when I talk to vegans, we're in agreement on every single judgment, conceivably, and we always end up walking away angry at each other, and it's so frustrating. I just want us to be friends, vegan gains.
You want to fight me in a cage?
No, you're much larger than I am.
I'm just joking. People just expect me to say that by now.
All right.
Okay, well, you know what? I'll say this. I think it is still a topic of contention that certain monetary transactions you make, like buying a t-shirt, I think it is still a topic of contention that you are necessarily contributing to harm. So I think that's sort of a debate for another day, and actually Ask Yourself is messaging me on Facebook where he wants to have a debate on that.
But the discussion with him went the same. I have to talk to like an anarchist vegan or something, and I'll probably get mad at them because I won my cheesy bits. All right, listen. This is actually an infinitely more productive and decent and level-headed conversation than I was expecting.
All right, well at least that's good. And hey, man, like, look, going vegan is really fucking easy, and there's personal benefits too, dude. Like, if it stops animal deaths, if it makes you healthier, if it makes you happier, if it makes you feel better about yourself, why not do it?
All right. I don't disagree with you. There are a lot of benefits to veganism, and reciprocally. Yes?
Well, dude, you've got me on Twitter. If you ever need any help with, like, vegan dieting, if you want to transition, I'm right there.
Gotcha. And you know what? I'm throwing it back. Likewise, remember, friends, intersectionality is the lens through which we will be able to combat the systemic injustices we face on a day-to-day level. Even if you benefit from privilege, man, cisgender, straight, or what have you, I bet you there are ways in which your life can be improved. Intersectionality has the answer because only it is capable of discursively recognizing the way in which society is fucking you over. All right, and you can hit me the fuck up. Hey.
By the way, what's your stance on guns?
I'm very pro-gun.
Okay, cool. All right.
Are you
just wondering.
Gun-friendly as well?
Oh yeah. I was just wondering. I've been looking for a debate to have on firearms for a while. Nobody'll do it. Even that.
Listen, as long as we're pointing those guns away from the cows and towards the pigs, am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cops. All right. Hey, thank you very much for the discussion. I appreciate it. Trans rights, comrade.
Yeah, no problem. All right. We'll take care. All right. Well, that wasn't too bad. I think I'll just answer some comments, read out the super chats. So let's see. Nightingale made another $2.79 donation. He says, "Intersectionality is cancer. Women don't like you." It's been cancer to the vegan movement. I thought the conversation we had was interesting. The way he described intersectionality, it was quite a bit different than how a lot of intersectionalists interpret it. But yeah, intersectionality as a culture, at least, how a lot of people define it and use it, it is absolutely cancer. But thanks, Nightingale. Lunatic Thinker donated $5. He says, "Hello there, I'm from the Vaush chat. Turned vegan 3 weeks ago. My bro invited me to watch the Game Changer documentary. You were great. Heart." Well, thanks, Lunatic Thinker, and glad you could go vegan. I think Vaush needs some more vegans in his chat, telling him to go vegan and stop being a lazy asshole. But glad you went vegan, dude, and thanks, Lunatic. Appreciate it. The Raw Truth donated $1.99. She says, "Mass murdering corporate shill. Laugh 100 and okay sign, yeah." Well, that's the weird thing, too. If he's going to claim that every monetary transaction is in some form of exploitation and harm, why would he choose to, why would he choose to make the most harmful monetary transactions of them all? It's bizarre. And he was so willing to bite the bullet on that he even claimed that paying for children to be raped is totally fine. It's fucked. So, yeah, but thanks for the donation, the Raw Truth. Okay, I think I'm going to end the stream here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good kind of discussion. Hopefully I can talk with Vaush some more to convince him to, not torture and kill animals, but we'll see. Big thanks to everyone who donated in the Super Chat, and as always, keep making those vegan gains, and have a good rest of the evening, everybody.
All right, chat. Listen the fuck up. We need to have a discussion right now, okay? We need to have a discussion right now on the difference between moral good and moral obligation. All right? Listen up. Okay? This is super fucking important. So, a moral good is something that, well, it can be a lot of things, okay? Listen, a moral good in the context of the conversation we were having is something which increases the amount of well-being in the world. It is morally good to increase. Is that difference actually recognized by utilitarians? Yes, because as a rule utilitarian, I believe that there are detrimental rule consequences to morally impugning people for their consumptive habits. All right? Now listen up. Listen the fuck up. A moral good is something that increases... I washed my hands. A moral good is the something that increases the well-being in the world, okay? It increases the broader utility, makes the world a better place, okay? However, a moral obligation is something... There are also moral consequences for eating fucking animals, Vaush? Yes? Oh, no. Oh, God. Actually, wait. Never mind. We can't do it, can we? Some fucking vegans are omega triggered. Oh, no. We can't do it. Vaush, a rule utilitarian? Yes, I'm a rule utilitarian. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, no. You're a hypocrite? Okay. What? No, I'm not debating any of you. I'm objectively right. Any of you who believe that I'm engaging in some form of hypocrisy here are just not familiar with like ethical, like with moral prescriptivist conversations, okay? You literally just don't know. Listen, guys, veganism is good. Don't say purge the vegans. We're not purging the vegans. Veganism is a good thing, okay? There's like you're objectively wrong, however, if you believe what I'm saying is hypocritical. All I'm saying is that people should not be morally impugned for their consumptive decisions. We already do this in almost every respect. Guys, I'm going to start pointing at stuff I'm not getting morally impugned for, okay? Are you ready? This computer and all of the parts in it, many of these parts were constructed by companies that rely on slave labor and horribly exploitative business practices. These two acrylics were actually made by independent artists, so they're okay. The microphone arm, both of my monitors, the camera itself, the desk upon which I lie, all of it. Audio mixer that I keep right here, this t-shirt, these glasses, the big old fucking office chair that I've got. See this, honey? This was bought at a farmer's market. So this one's probably good. We're probably good with this one. These M&Ms, people probably died making these. Okay? Realistically, people did probably die making these M&Ms. Okay? My fucking router, my modem, the entire house that I live in, the jacket down there, my shorts, my underpants, my shampoo, all of these things are things that I buy. And when I buy them, I'm hurting people because I'm giving money to systems that hurt people in the exact same way that when you buy meat, you're hurting animals. Not the animal that you just purchased. That animal was already dead. You're hurting animals because you're giving money to a system that hurts more animals in the future. So when all of these things around me, all of these things surrounding me, they all, in the basically the same way, to varying levels of degree, sure, but I don't think that's particularly relevant when we're talking about virtue ethics, to all of these, so all of that is morally wrong then? Who dat boy? That is what we find ourselves at then. You could make the argument then that all of this is morally wrong, in which case every single human being on Earth is a bad human being. I don't think that's very productive. I don't think that's a very good way of analyzing ethics when your ethical system makes every single human being on Earth a bad human being. Would you advocate for veganism in a socialist society? I advocate for veganism now. It's a good thing to be vegan. I've said this on stream dozens and dozens and dozens of times. It's a good thing to be vegan. You should be vegan. You should be vegan, okay? I should be vegan, but I'm not. You know what else I should do? I should volunteer more time at my local soup kitchen. But I don't. Are you gonna shit talk me for that? You gonna fucking gonna get me for that one? Huh? Come on, look at me. You gonna cancel me? You gonna cancel me for that one? Yeah? Gonna hit me right here? Gonna hit me right here for not donating enough money to charity? Not spending enough time at soup kitchens? Right here? You gonna get me? You gonna get me right here? You gonna get me? No, you're fucking not. Because you also could be doing more shit. I'm sorry. Maybe there are like 3 of you in chat who are legitimately so out of time and money that you have nothing to give the world. But I'm willing to bet a lot of you, considering the fact that you're watching my stream right now, probably could be spending time doing something that would increase the utility of the world more. You could be doing it, but you're not doing it. You're choosing not to do it. I legit want to talk to you right now and tell you how dumb that take is. Do it. Dan Maku Umaneko, do it. Fucking do it right now. And then Loopy Jackal. We're doing it real quick. We got 5 minutes for each of these wrong arguments that I'm about to hear. Right now in Discord. Go in Discord. Go into the fucking stream call-in. Do it. Yeah, go in there. Get Discord. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Ugh. Hit me with link. Oh, are you not already in the Discord? Just type !Discord. Also, fucking donate, you stupid piece of shit. We'll get to donations after all this. You're making me fucking mad. You're making me fucking angry, alright? You gotta calm me down with those donuts. Okay? Get in the Discord. Get in there. Go into the fucking stream call-ins, okay? Get in there. Go. Get. Go. Get. What was this person's name? You sound stupid, no offense. Damn, got me. The non-binary gamer. It's not hypocritical to advocate for veganism and not be vegan? Not in the slightest. What do you people do with your lives? You're so incapable of making ethical judgments. What the fuck do you mean? You can say, like, do you think it's hypocritical to be like, hey guys, I don't really do it, but you should probably volunteer at your local shelter. I don't do it, but it's still a good idea to do it. Wow, you fucking hypocrite, morally fucking bankrupt piece of shit. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here. All right, who was I going to talk to? What was their name? That's right. Bring them in. That's what I want to see. Pump me full of that fucking juice. Who are we talking to? Who was it? Who was the person? Who was the person who I said first? They had a long name. What was it? Someone tell me. We got to do it. We got to do it right now. We've got people to kill. You people right now, by the way, are in... Hey, by the way, if you're... Hey, Loopy Jackal, are you listening? You've engaged in unethical consumption because you've given me fucking $10, and I am going to use those $10 to buy some fucking meat. Maybe. Probably not, actually. But I might... You just indirectly contributed to the death of an animal, comrade. All of you, or you might as well not even be vegan anymore. Honestly. Dan Makuumeko. Yo, Dan... Are you in the stream call-ins? I'm PMing you? Oh, well, that's one way to do it, I guess. That is one anime avatar. Let's just do it. All right.
Yep.
Do it.
All right. So basically, it's about the... I'm sorry. I'm gonna close the stream. Otherwise, I'm gonna hear you go. Yeah. So basically, it's about whether it's easy or not. But
I don't care if it's easy or not. Even if veganism was the easiest thing in the world, it wouldn't make a difference.
I understand, but then you show alternatives. Like, for example, you use the computer example. Like they're using sweatshops to make them, etc., etc. So I'm wondering, you can't live in the modern era without a computer or something to process data. You need emails, shit like that. There's no easy alternatives for not having a computer. And then you throw the donating money to the homeless, by example. That's not consumerism.
No, but it's an example of the difference between morally good and morally obligatory behavior, which is what I was trying to illustrate. And even if that was the case, like, you can't live without a computer, and I disagree. You could go to your local library if you need the use of a computer. You have your smartphone. Not that that was produced ethically either. You could probably find a way to get some like offhand,
but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
What about the clothes off your back? I mean, do you really want to go down this path for every single consumptive decision that you've made? Do you really believe there are no ways you could have been more responsible?
Yeah, actually about that, I think that pretty much everyone is fucking lazy and they're making bad choices. And I'm ready to admit that people simply doesn't give a shit.
So are you of the opinion then that every single person on Earth is morally bad? They're bad people because they have almost certainly engaged in consumptive decisions that hurt people.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. There might be some Tibetan monk that lives alone, or some people in places.
Then I can't disagree with you. You're morally consistent if you believe that's the case. But at that point, I would say your moral system is absurd if you're making out like basically everyone to be a bad person.
Well, everyone is everyone does bad thing in varying degrees. It just try to do less of it.
Yeah, but like that's the argument. That's the argument that I'm making. That we shouldn't be like hyper specific with veganism specifically. Like if you want to apply that standard, you have to apply it to all consumptive decisions. You know?
Sure, but you take, by example, the things like sweatshops making your T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that will not realize how bad it is. I'm ready to bet some people don't even know that sweatshops are making T-shirts. But if you're thinking about farming, that's something that's a little bit more obvious. Wouldn't you agree? Like, people know that. They don't have the excuse of saying, oh, I didn't know about that. Oh.
But I don't care if people know about it or don't know about it. I guarantee you that if I went to your like house or your room or whatever, and I looked through your shit, I guarantee you that you have purchased things that come from unethical industries that have funded unethical behavior, and you did it just because you were like, whatever,
Absolutely.
dude, I just like this thing. I guarantee you have that. We all have that.
Yeah.
Everyone has done that.
Yeah, but it's not something that's giving me a big advantage. While veganism is literally making you live longer, the health benefits are over the charts.
But that's a different argument completely. Also, you can make the argument that the world in general would have like a higher longevity if you didn't support any capitalist industry, since capitalism is literally destroying the planet.
True. No, I could agree with that, but it's not something that you can avoid, really, not in the current era. You can easily switch from a meat diet to a vegan diet.
The meme where vegans say you can just easily become vegan. But it doesn't matter how easy it is.
Dude, I'm the living proof of it.
That's not how it works.
I snapped my finger and it happened like that. My brother, he was vegan for like about a few years, maybe. Kept telling me about how it's good for me, and eventually, recently I felt pretty sick, had some issues, and I decided to try going vegan, and it just fucking worked.
Okay. Difficulty is very much relative to the individual engaging in the act, but again, it doesn't matter how easy it is. That's completely irrelevant to the moral equation here. When vegans say you're bad if you're not vegan, you're a bad person for not going vegan if you have the means to, their claim is it is immoral of you to have the option to engage in more responsible consumptive practices, but to not do so. And if they applied that standard non-hypocritically, they would end up condemning basically every human being who has ever lived.
Yeah, but that leads me to one other thing I disagree with you. Basically, I don't want to tell you you're doing a moral relativism, but I think you're making a mistake by trying to say that some of these things are in equal value, or I could say that evil or wrong.
I don't think they're all the same amount of bad. But the truism remains consistent, like the same, like either way. You know, the claim it is morally wrong to not be more responsible consumptively when you could be. That's consistent across all the examples I made, regardless of the severity of the claim in each case.
I don't know if I can agree with that.
All right. You know what you and I can both agree on? You know what I'm going to say, don't you? You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
I've got an idea.
I love you, buddy.
Oh, okay. I thought.
Hey, what the fuck did you think I was going to say? I said 5 minutes. I have to yell at more people now.
I thought. Okay. Trent's right. See ya.
Hey, trans rights. Wait. What anime is your fucking PFP from?
It's technically, yes, it's an anime, but the adaptation sucks dick. It's from a visual novel called Human Echo. And
hell yeah.
Pretty good. I suggest you, if you're into that.
I respect that. I love anime. And I love black people. All right. I love you. Have a good one.
You too.
Farewell. All right. We gotta keep it. We're keeping it positive. Where the fuck is Loopy Jackal? Where's Loopy Jackal? Well, I don't see Loopy Jackal in my fucking DMs or in the voice call-in, so we're bringing in Soul. Oh no. Oh dear. Oh, baby. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Soul.
One sec, let me turn off your, or let me mute your stream. What's up?
Soul. Do it. Tell me how my soul is stained by meat eating.
Actually, no, my take is actually a little different.
Hit me up.
So, being as a racial minority in the United States, and within my minority, cooking is a huge part of my culture.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is, meat or cooking meat and everything like that. And to me, this moral argument of veganism kind of stains to the same effect of whiteys telling me that I am an inferior person because I'm doing something wrong.
I have two thoughts on this, really quickly, if I may.
Yeah.
On one hand, I don't think it's bad to criticize an element of a culture that that you believe is like categorically unethical. Like, for example, like the Saudi Arabia, like women have to be accompanied by a husband shit. Like, I don't get, like, if I had any control over that shit, I don't give a fuck if that's their culture. We're melting that down. But on the other hand, like, when I try and think of it in a colonialist way, like, what if there's some like indigenous culture, or like, let's just play, what if there's some Mongolian culture that's like meat eating is like a big part of their culture, and China like imperializes them and colonizes the area, and they impose like a vegan diet on them because that's like China's thing or something. I don't know. We're making pretend. And that would be pretty fucked up, right? Even if meat eating isn't good, like that practice of cultural erasure is still
correct. And that's kind of my take on it as well.
Sorry, I rambled over you. I apologize.
Well, in the sense that, even within my cult, or even with the history of oppression of my minority, there has been attacks against my culinary history. And as such, every time I see this force, like, I have no problems of reducing, meat consumption in general and all that. But when you argue it purely based on a moral standpoint, to me, it just comes from the same vein as we need to teach these inferiors how to be better people. And to me, it's all just conjecture, because veganism, forceful veganism, is not going to ever take place in my lifetime. I could just kick that down to my grandchildren.
Well, maybe get a little bit more going on, but yeah.
But, even there's talks now about how ranchers should be internalizing the costs of their economic damage and all that. And I'm fine with that. If meat prices go up because ranchers need to take responsibility for the ecological damage they cause, that's fine by me. But to argue it basically on, animal rights are more important than my cultural heritage seems to be very disingenuous.
So what you're saying is veganism is white supremacy. So yes.
Basically, if you look, as Vegan Gain said, most vegans are white female.
Damn. Those fucking femoids again. Hey, listen. Squad W, brother. Okay? Thank you for fucking holding the whites to the fire again. I appreciate it.
I gotta stand up for my culture. No one else will.
Hell yeah. That's when I'm... Fuck women. And also white people. Hey, alright. Thank you for the conversation, comrade. All right, it's time to yell at Loopy Jackal now.
Also, trans right, Yang Gang 2020. Goodbye.
No, only one of those things. They left. Damn it. All right.
Hang on a second, I gotta mute the stream. Okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Loopy, you think
Yes.
I'm not giving you no fucking special treatment just because you got a fancy stream avatar and also because I like you? You've
No.
got 5 fucking minutes. Hit me up. What's up?
5 minutes. Okay, can I do 3 things real fast? First of all, trans rights. Trans rights it up, boys. Second of all, the girl that I met on your server is watching right now, so I can win with her support, hopefully. And third of all, Vegan Games is absolutely correct. There is a great argument for Christian veganism. I'm living proof of it. You fuckers. I literally converted because of a conservative Catholic, Matthew Scully. That's why I went vegan. Not that his arguments are good. His arguments are shit.
Listen, I will mourn your death when the evangelicide takes place, when we press the button and the American Christians are all fucking Thanos.
Whoa, do not call me an evangelical. Do not.
No. You'll just get caught in the crossfire, my friend, but that's okay. Listen, it'll still be, in a consequentialist sense, it'll still be worth it.
Holy shit, my volume was so loud and I didn't realize. Yeah, I'll probably die in the revolution. I'm not fooling anybody. I know I'm a pussy bitch. I'll die. I don't care.
Listen.
Well, not that I don't care, but, you know.
Yeah, I think maybe you care a little. All right, hit me the fuck up. What's up?
Okay, so, here, let's see.
Just so you know, you have to, listen, traveler, be warned. You approach a flawless argument. The philosophy is airtight. It is impenetrable. You better have brought some fucking high-tier weapons.
Well, I smoked a little bit of weed earlier, so I am a little up there. But anyway, okay, so here's my argument for veganism, sort of twofold. So your whole point is broadly like, well, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. I agree with that. Of course there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Here's my twofold argument. First of all, veganism is a modest change overall, I would argue. I'm not going to tell you it's incredibly easy, but I did it very easily because I'm familiar with food. I'm a chef and whatnot. But in terms of overall harm reduction one person could possibly do, veganism is the best. Because in terms of environmental impact, your daily choice to consume animals, yeah, I see that, Vaush. Your daily choice to consume animals is the most extremely environmental impactful. One burger contains as much CO2 as driving a car for like an entire day. A single block of cheese contains almost as much CO2 as driving a car for a year straight. Couple that in all together, and you could make that very modest change to dramatically reduce your environmental impact, at least personally.
I just don't think the severity is relevant to the moral equation.
I think it is. I mean, if you have two products in front of you, one is a blood diamond, you know it's a blood diamond, and one is a synthetic diamond, and both are at the same price, which are you going to buy? And veganism is at the point where you could still pretty much maintain the same diet, at least if you live in an area where, you know, there are vegan products available, which, you know, plenty of places have them now.
I think that it would be hypocritical for anyone to give me shit if I took the blood diamond, even if there was literally no difference between the two.
So even if you have two products in front of you and you know one of them is morally abhorrent, and the decision to buy the less morally abhorrent one is literally the same as just picking something different off the counter, you would still say, yeah, I'm going to go to bat for that and say there's no difference between those two actions.
I would have to, because I would be inconsistent otherwise. Because my premise here, or the premise that I'm trying to debunk here, is that the premise of the vegan is people are immoral. It's bad of you. You're immoral.
Well, yeah, you're not going to get me on that, Vaush. Remember how we started the stream? That's kind of what my religion entails.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you make that judgment that a person is immoral for doing that, for making irresponsible consumptive decisions, that's your call, then you fall down a rabbit hole where you end up condemning basically
You don't
like
fall
everyone.
down a rabbit hole if the decision is literally choosing one or two in the exact same place.
Wait, So if that's okay, listen, maybe I can bite on this, okay? If this is all we're arguing, that if the two choices are identical and you have equal opportunity to both of them, and one does more harm than the other, then sure, it's probably bad of you to choose the one that does more harm, even if it procures for you no benefit. However, for you to then go ahead and make the argument that you can do the exact same thing with veganism is disingenuous.
But we're talking about a modest adjustment, like not even that modest.
Yeah, any adjustment, any adjustment. If you even going to the other side of the store to get the non-blood diamond, I would say you can't morally impugn somebody for that. Think of all the.
Then I'm just gonna have to dismiss that as ludicrous. Like
I'm sorry. You've been to department stores. You've seen the rows and rows of T-shirts in front of you. Have you ever popped open your smartphone to see which companies have been implicated in which labor violations?
Hang on. We're talking about a comparison between a minuscule adjustments. I understand your argument with minuscule adjustments. I agree with you. There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. We're talking about a choice you make daily as opposed to a T-shirt, which, morally wrong that I bought it, but it's something I rarely have to buy. And yes, I will say I do, generally speaking, try to ethically shop, even when I'm not dealing with
but it's not
products.
It's not about you or me. It's that we don't apply these standards to others.
How is it not applying a standard if I'm pointing at a situation where your daily consumptive habits not only have a bad environmental impact, have a bad impact upon animals, have a bad impact upon human beings, and adjusting it would take a very slight amount of effort?
It's not very come on, it's not very slight. No, just so you know, you lose non-vegans when you say that. Every time a vegan says, "Oh, it's no effort at all," like all the non-vegans
I didn't say
roll
no
their eyes.
Effort at all. I'm talking about if you take just don't even have to do it overnight. You don't have to do it overnight, You can see at which point, which choices you can start making that would ultimately reduce your harm, not only to the environment, but to animals and human beings.
Yeah, so morally impugn everyone for having a car.
That would radically adjust your impact.
It doesn't make a difference.
I didn't realize you would get triggered over the word simple.
Wait. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, all right. Don't fucking posture in front of me. Come on. It has nothing to do with the simplicity of the act. This is a standard we don't apply in other avenues. People who buy cars instead of bikes. People who buy more things than they need. People who casually buy toys or what have you. People who support companies or buy food from companies that are unethical. There are so many ways all the time in our lives, day to day, that we support unethical industries. But vegans only get ass-pained over one of those things.
Okay, first of all, no, I don't. I get ass-pained over all of them. You forget.
Then you impugn everyone.
Two, let me get all my points across, okay? For one, all the potential ethical decisions you would have to make in all those circumstances are not only limited in the fact that these are not daily choices you make. Your food habit is a daily choice. Whereas with all these other practices you're listing, they're not exactly daily occurrences. You don't shop for clothes daily, okay?
Listen, I rip my shirts flexing my chest all the time, okay? You buy food daily, though. What about the food that you buy that is vegan but still comes from exploitative businesses?
And I try to reduce my harm in terms of
Do you morally condemn I don't care what you do. Do you morally condemn other people for not doing it?
For what specific act?
For buying their quinoa from a business that takes up land that could be used to otherwise revitalize the Amazon. I don't know. There are a billion ways in which we make decisions for personal convenience that hurt the world, and we don't condemn those people for it.
And so those decisions are comparable or equal to a radical impact that you make daily?
It doesn't make a difference.
It does, though. It does.
No, we're talking about the rule of whether or not we morally impugn people for not being optimally
responsible. No ethical consumption under capitalism. Just because everybody makes bad choices, and yes, in the abstract, they're bad people. I mean, again, that's kind of part of what my shit is. But that doesn't mean the moral system doesn't work. Of course everybody fucks up sometimes. We're flawed, limited human agents.
Yeah, no, you can't do that card when vegans only bitch and moan about the animal stuff. I have never seen vegans... No, I don't care about you. I'm arguing against veganism. If you're like the most hyper-morally pure person in the universe, and you're out there condemning people for owning cars, when you're like, oh, look at your commute. You could have a bike here and save the environment. If you're one of those people, like, fine.
Yeah, and not buying a burger has the same impact as not driving your car all day.
But then why do only one of those things have an entire movement based around calling people unethical if they don't do it?
It's daily. It's a huge thing. It would be like buying 5 cars.
No. Car culture is one of the biggest destructive forces to the planet right now. The resources, the pollution.
Train socialism all the way. Train socialism all the way.
You keep switching between two separate arguments. So the argument I'm making is that it is hypocritical for vegans to only be up in arms and morally condemn people for irresponsible consumptive practices in one specific way. And you're saying...
I guess if you equate a massive daily impact to a decision that, A, is not widely available as veganism, it's not as easy to always ethically shop for a t-shirt, and B, also equate it to the impact of that t-shirt as opposed to the broad impact of your food dietary choices, then fine. Yeah, I guess if those two things are exactly equal, then yes, I guess I have to yield the whole argument.
No, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. It doesn't change the moral truism. The moral truism, is it or is it not ethical to morally condemn people for their irresponsible consumptive habits? And I say it's not.
Okay,
because if we do that, every single person on Earth
hang on.
is bad.
I know I was going at it for a while, but I'm not sure I understand the question. Again, I participated in a little marijuana before we started this.
Then what have you been talking about?
I know what I've been talking about. I just didn't understand the question you just made. Can you go back to the original question? That's all I'm asking right now. Just calm down, Vaush. It's okay.
The question is it or is it not ethical? Or should you or should you not? Ought we morally condemn people for their not engaging in responsible consumptive habits? That's the broader pull of the argument there.
I guess then my fundamental disagreement would have to come in with how broad the question is, because like I said, I agree with you, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, but that doesn't mean, as I gave my example at the start, if the choice is between a blood diamond and a synthetic one, and the synthetic one is at the under end of the store, then yeah, I kind of would have to condemn a person who didn't buy the synthetic diamond. I guess that's our
What if we apply it to day to day? All the day to day. I swear to God, dude, if I went into your fucking house, I would find shit, and I would be able to point at it and go hey, was this really necessary?
Yeah, probably. And I should probably reduce those.
Or
choices.
we can design moral systems that don't exist to morally condemn every person on Earth for participating in systems that we can't escape.
Vaush, I'm anti-capitalist. Why are you trying to raise this as though I don't agree with it? I'm anti-capitalist.
No, you don't agree with me, because one of the fundamental tenets of anti-capitalist theory is that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, that you shouldn't be made...
Yes, I said I agree with that.
Then you shouldn't... The premise of that isn't, hey, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, therefore we're all bad people. No, but no. The premise there, it's an incomplete sentence. The full sentence is, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, therefore, it's not unethical of you to participate in it. It's not, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, therefore, all of us are unethical.
All right, fine. Even then, again, I go back to my example at the start, the blood diamond. I'm sorry, I have to... Just because there is no unethical consumption under capitalism doesn't mean there is an easily discernible, direct difference between a person who looks at a product, knows the horrifying history behind it, has the more moral alternative easily and readily available to him. And if you don't live in a food desert, for example, which I don't condemn extremely poor people.
This is so dishonest. Shirts are made in sweatshops, and the idea that that deciding to be vegan and cutting out literally 2/3 of all available food existing in all grocery stores for the rest of your life is just an easy choice that you can make. Oh yeah, I choose this over that, is so disingenuous. This is one of the reasons I can't argue with vegans about this, because they reduce the process of veganism down to it's just the easiest that you just press the vegan button and then you're vegan. Whereas all these other things that you do that are unethical, then the excuses come out. You'll make excuses for any other issue.
Oh my goodness. Okay, here. I will. Okay. I love you, Vaush. You know that, right? I do love you. I love your shit. 100%.
No, well, you're Christian, so it doesn't mean anything. You love the sinner. It's not. It doesn't mean anything good for you.
Aw, but you're right, Vaush. I do believe in love my enemies. I do consider myself, try to actually apply those things. I do try to. I really do. Okay. Short-term memory kicking in. Okay. So you're saying this whole, cutting 2/3 of the options at the grocery store. Yeah. Go to aisle 2 instead of aisle 1. Like I said earlier, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to hold to this one. If there is a synthetic diamond on the other end of the store, and it's the same price, and you know it's there, and you're really just like, fuck it, it's a blood diamond, whatever. I'm sorry, I kind of have to look at that and go, but the other choice is there. And
you do the same thing, buddy. You've done the same thing when buying electronics or T-shirts. I guarantee you, if I could fucking peer into the Vi, I could see your life laid before me. I guarantee you, I could find points in your life where you had the option to make a more responsible, ethical, consumptive decision, and you went with something else.
Two things. One, we are talking about something that could genuinely reduce a lot of harm in terms of environmental.
Yeah. So could not buying a car. Yep. Again, it doesn't matter. You keep making arguments that are irrelevant to the moral truism. The extent and the ease don't matter. They're irrelevant. Do we or do we not morally condemn people for making consumptive decisions that are?
Yes. Wait, didn't I already say yes to this question?
Then your moral system leaves everyone immoral.
Yes, we agreed to that. Yes, I conceded that to the start.
Then your moral system may be consistent. I find it useless. I'm not interested in bolstering a moral system.
Condemns everybody. Do you think even you 100% believe in consequentialism and act in that way all the time?
Yes.
Everybody's a hypocrite sometimes.
No. No. Yes, I may act irrationally. Wait, I'm sorry. When have I ever acted out of consequence? When have I ever been like, oh, actually, I'm going deontological in this? I literally defended fucking buying child porn.
I didn't know what's going on in my closet. I can't peer into your life and record every single behavior you have.
I'm not saying that you're a hypocrite. Well, I am saying you're a hypocrite, but not because of what you've done. It's because of who you choose to impugn.
Yeah, of course. Sometimes everybody's a hypocrite. Sometimes.
Okay, but we're trying to argue for a consistent moral philosophy.
We're talking in circles. I'll let you yell at other people.
All right.
I'm sorry. My position on this is here. I'll say it, then you can yell at me. I love you, by the way, in trans rights. I really do love you.
Okay.
I simply believe that the harm reduction from this daily habit is something one could justifiably point at and say, hey, this is something I can do, and it would drastically reduce my harm on a daily basis. I simply look at that and I say, I want to reduce my harm.
Yes, it's good to be vegan. I completely agree.
Okay, then.
That was not the argument. Really. All right, farewell.
All right, fine. All right.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Loopy. I love you. Pull more in. I'm not pulling more in. Guys, if you disagree with me, you're just wrong. Every single time I bring this issue up, people start fucking bringing up issues that are unrelated to the moral truism. It's so fucking obnoxious. It's it's really fucking frustrating to me because this is the easiest point in the world. This is like ethics 101. This should be a very, very easy. Red Ashitaka, no, I know what your fucking point is and it's stupid. I saw it in chat. Oh, it's different because they're living animals. No, it doesn't fucking matter. When you buy a t-shirt, you're affecting living animals too. The people who produce that t-shirt in a sweatshop, okay? It's not fucking happening. None of you people are right. You're all wrong. God, you fucking, it's incredible to me. This is a incredibly easy moral truism to work through, okay? It's super simple, okay? Watch this. Either you believe people can be morally wrong for not making ideal consumptive decisions, or you don't. Vaush, let me debate you on child porn. You're reducing this down to a binary unintentionally. No, it is a binary. This is a binary. Do you or do you not? It's that simple. All right, no more vegans. These are people arguing with their... Why is it a binary? Because that's literally the moral question I'm asking. How many times do I have to ask it? It's so simple. Nice butt sweat, bro. Yeah, listen, it's really fucking warm in here, okay? I can't have the window open because it's raining outside. Vaush is pro-child porn? No. I'm pro-banning you, though. All right, what are we talking about here? Your framing is what's hurting them. This is, oh my fucking God. Guys, I'm really sorry. Listen, I'm really sorry. If you think that I'm wrong, you don't understand what we're talking about, okay? Let's break this down into a logical truism. Oh wait, whoops. That's not the fucking, no. Let's break this down into a logical truism, okay? So, we can start... You're just framing it poorly? I'm really not. I'm actually framing this very well. People are just fucking feels-based. This is some feels-based shit, okay? Look at this, okay? So watch this. So first, we make an if statement, okay? So if... That is a really tiny text, Jesus. That'll go. Listen, okay? Watch this. We're going to start with an if statement. Okay. If a person can be morally condemned for an irresponsible consumptive decision, okay? Are we following so far? Do you see what's going on right now? Are we following on it? Okay? If this. So let's make sure that let's make sure we know what this is, okay? So fucking if person can be morally whatever, all right? I'm going to put that under there so I can draw a front. Okay, there we go. If person can be morally condemned for irresponsible consumptive decision, okay? Now, this has nothing to do at all, nothing, 0% to do with whether or not it's good to be vegan. I believe it's good to be vegan. I believe that very strongly. I've always said that. I've never even implied otherwise, okay? If person can be morally condemned for irresponsible consumptive decision, then, okay, look, we're going to do a little arrow, okay? Actually, the then should go here. Then, it's very simple. Can we all fill this in with ourselves? Do we need me? Here, I'm going to do it anyway, okay? If person can be morally condemned for irresponsible consumptive decision, then... Oh, really? We're back to the fucking size before, huh? Okay, hold on. Zoop. Then it is unethical to eat meat. See? Look at this. Right there. See? If person can be morally condemned, so that means to say a person is bad, for irresponsible consumptive decision. Okay? So that means you engage in a consumptive practice that is not responsible, it's not geared towards well-being, then it necessarily is made unethical to eat meat. However, what you can also do... Who exactly said that veganism is about condemning people? Because that sound feels as fuck. Shostako Lich, I don't know if you've noticed, but vegans say you're a bad person for eating meat. Okay? I don't know if you've noticed. That's what I've been arguing about this entire time. Literally this entire time has just been, you're not a bad person for not being vegan. That's the entire stream. That's the entire thing we've been doing, okay? So we get this. However, if it is unethical to eat meat because of this, that also means that all other consumptive. Then, wait. Yeah, that's right. Consumptive. Yeah, there you go. Then all other consumptive decisions which lead to harm and could be avoided are also unethical. Okay? Now, the problem here, and this is a problem, the problem here is that it is, if you follow this, you are necessarily condemning a huge portion of the population to being unethical. And by a huge portion of the population, I mean basically every human being alive. And I mean that on every single day, on a daily basis, everyone is unethical, is engaging in unethical behavior. And this isn't just consequentialist unethical behavior, okay? This is virtue ethics. This is whether or not you're a good person. Remember, vegans will say you are a bad person if you eat meat. That's the only claim here that I have a problem with, because they will say you're a bad person for not following through on this point, but they will ignore this point and not say you're a bad person for doing the other things. Notice how Loopy Jackal, when they came on, said, oh, well, I criticize everyone for doing all of this, but if that's the case, they wouldn't have needed to come on because I wouldn't have an issue with them. They wouldn't be hypocritical. They came on because they have a specific bias towards veganism. And when they distanced themselves from that and said, oh, no, I hate capitalism too, actually, I'm willing to criticize all of this, that was them distancing themselves from the hypocrisy borne out in their argument, because they are unwittingly focusing on this element, because that's the easy argument to make, while ignoring this one unless they are forced to acknowledge it. If Loopy Jackal had been straightforward with their position that they believe everyone is unethical for doing all of this, they wouldn't have wanted to come on and talk to me. So, this is this feels so simple to me. Kanga, fine. Jesus Christ. Wow, really? I mean, unironically, thank you, Kanga. See? The circle is consumption. The ease and the size and the impact doesn't matter. It is still a circle. It is still just as bad. Or I wouldn't say it's just as bad. I would say that it's bad. I think you can make a decent argument for their... Are you saying isolating veganism is a whataboutism? Yes. Yes, I am. It is a whataboutism. Absolutely. It means that there is a specific moral axis that vegans are obsessed with, and they obsess over it and nothing else. And even though the axioms they're following would necessarily demand they obsess over all of them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Red Ashitaka, like, I've said this all the time. Like, I have never hidden this point. Everyone should be vegan. That'd be amazing. You should be vegan. You should go vegan. Like, 100%. I fucking put me on the screen. I'll talk for hours about the ethics of it. I'll talk for hours about the benefit to the environment, so on and so forth. Like, easily, 100%. But what you won't get me to say is that you are a bad person for not being vegan. No, Beefy Kent, you're correct. So literally no problem calling veganism a moral good, just a problem with calling non-veganism a moral evil. Yes, yes. That's my only position. That's all I'm trying to say. You should do the... Okay, this is actually a really garbage fucking truism, okay? I've never actually written one before, so my brain short-circuited and I just started making the argument over text. Let's not worry about it, okay? Listen, let's just focus on this. Guys, it's so frustrating because I agree with vegans on everything. Like, on everything. They just are hypocrites in how they apply the virtue ethics standard. Oh, it actually does make sense, a programmer? Hell yeah, that's what I'm saying. Would you agree all types of consumption that could lead to exploitation is bad, and taking small steps in your personal life for reducing suffering is a moral good? Yes! Yes, every step you are willing to take to reduce suffering is a moral good. And consumption, in basically every case, increases harm to the world. But I don't think you're a bad person for not engaging in for participating in that, you know? That's it. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing. But there is consumption that cannot be avoided and consumption that can be easily avoided. I'd argue that the level of consequences to you directly has a significant moral impact in this case, Vaush. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty and actually start arguing that there's a threshold, so this is the argument that some people are making. They're saying that, okay, well, some things are so bad, some more consumptive decisions are so bad that they should be treated differently than other irresponsible consumptive decisions. So they're saying, like, here's the bar, right? And up here is veganism, and right here is like buying t-shirts from sweatshop factories. But this right here is the bar, and anything above that bar is so bad that it's immoral of you to not restrain from participating in that consumptive decision. The problem is, this is a morally indefensible position. It's philosophically, like, incoherent. Setting that bar, there's no way to set that bar. It's arbitrary. They arbitrarily place that bar there. And they're making arbitrary assessments of what harm is. They're making arbitrary judgments as to what is more damaging than other things. And they're doing it to prop up a presupposed moral investment in veganism, and it's called an axiom. No, Loopy Jackal, an axiom is a truism that you claim, like a moral position that you take that you cannot justify. An axiom is not, this is the threshold at which consumptive decisions become harmful enough that it's unethical to participate in them. That's not what an axiom is. How are you a bad person for violating an ethical norm like being racist or fascist? Because being a racist or fascist have nothing, literally nothing to do with your consumptive decisions. There's no level of abstraction there. It's you and you being entirely responsible for your own thought process and your own behavior. But not bad for violating an ethical norm like veganism. It's not about ethical norm. It's about whether it's consumptive or not. That's the statement that I am making. I'm specifically talking about consumptive decisions. I'm not talking to any more vegans. There's literally nothing to be explored in this discussion. Can't a threshold be defined consequentially in regards to its impact as a society on a whole? Sure, but it's going to be arbitrary. And it's really fucking weird that people who have no idea how philosophy works are setting that threshold just so the thing they care about gets passed, but all the things that they participate in, they get to slide on by. Don't all axioms place bars somewhere? Loopy Jackal, an axiom is just an unjustified presuppositional statement that you base foundational principles off of. It has nothing to do with setting thresholds for really specific consequentialist takes on the virtue ethics of outcomes derived from consumptive decisions. That's a whole other fucking thing. No, I agree with you as a vegan. No, even if you agree with me, I don't even know. Because listen, I don't need people to agree with me. I have it up in my head all the time. In my own head, I have myself agreeing with me. Okay, it's enough. Why does it have to be like this? Why can't we just get along? Why can't we? Whale Sharky, I agree the point that it isn't easy for a lot of people does mean something. Oh, wait, hold on. We don't have a process for memers and chat to get unbanned, but Dante Thorne emailed saying you didn't read the Destiny arc meme and mistook the joke. Oh, did I? Ah. Yeah, that was my bad. I thought Dante Thorne was cool too. I was really confused. Listen, I'm triggered. There you go. Aren't axioms incredibly important in logic? Axioms are foundational, presuppositional statements that you make in order to make statements derivative of them. So, I could have an axiom like, sentient life is good, and preserving it is good. Happiness is good. These are axioms. I can't justify these axioms. Like I can't find a mathematical proof or a truism or a tablet in the desert that tell you that human happiness is good. You can't do it. It's just something I have procured. It is a justified, unjustified statement. It is presuppositional. It begins. It is the foundation from which it begins, you know? And then from that, you can make other statements like, okay, if human well-being is good, then raping humans is bad. Now, that raping humans is bad statement isn't an axiom. It's derivative of the axiom. Does that make sense? So that's how axioms work. They're like this... It's a meme, okay? Thinking more basic shit like Socrates is a man. No, the Socrates is a man thing isn't an axiom. It's a syllogism. What's it called? Syllogy? Syllogism? What's the term? Chat, what's it called? The Socrates is a man, all men are mortal, therefore Socrates is mortal. What's that? Syllogism? I think it's syllogism. Yeah, syllogism, yeah. That's not an axiom. That's just a logically internal... So, what this is supposed to be is a syllogism, okay? So, but this is all very dumb. Like, this is gay. Remember, being gay is bad. If it was straight, that'd be good. Haha. Okay, but the real thing is, okay? Look at this. All right, watch. Okay, watch. So, here's like point number one, okay? If being a vegan makes you a bad person, then why? Okay? Well, why does it make you a bad person? Well, or sorry, not being a vegan, my apologies. Not being a vegan, eating meat. If eating meat makes you a bad person, why is that the case? Okay? Why does it make you a bad person to eat meat? Well, it makes you a bad person because your purchases are hurting people. Now, not directly. Remember, when you buy meat at the store, they don't just go out back and shoot a cow. You take the carcass of an animal. You see, you take the carcass of an animal and you pay money for it. And that money in part goes to the people who killed that cow. And they're going to kill more cows because you gave them the money to do so. All right? So if not being a vegan makes you a bad person, and this is why not being a vegan makes you a bad person, it then subsequently follows that purchasing things where the money goes towards hurting people is wrong. And then we bring ourselves back to the t-shirt. It's like a lot of you guys aren't even old memers where I talked about how there's no real difference between buying a t-shirt and buying child pornography. The objective here isn't to get people off veganism. If anything, it's the opposite. I want more people to be more invested in veganism because veganism is good. Being vegan is about reducing suffering, not about being good or bad. This is a non sequitur. Vegans believe that if you choose not to reduce suffering by being vegan, you're a bad person or it's unethical. That's my position. My position is that we should all be looking to reduce harm, but we shouldn't be morally impugning people for not being vegan. Vaush is literally a sophist. Red Spectre! Everyone, chat! Everyone in chat, shut the fuck up. Everyone in chat. Red sophist? Do you have any fucking idea what a sophist is? Could you kindly explain to me what you think a sophist is? Because I literally just outlined the moral framework of the truism that I've been explaining to chat futilely for 2.5 hours now. An expert in rhetoric? A sophist is colloquially used to refer to somebody who obfuscates the truth of arguments with language. So this is a person who is obsequious, obsequious. The word is coming to my head, but I don't know how to pronounce it or how it's spelled. Obsequious? Obsequious. I have that right? That the word means what I think it means. Obsequious. No. This isn't what I meant at all. Obedient or attentive to an excessive or servile degree. No, that's not the word that I had in mind. No wonder I had so much trouble fucking belting it out. Whatever the case may be, listen up. Generally, when you call a person a sophist, you're saying that they're obscuring truth with words. Okay? A person who reasons with clever but false arguments. Exactly, Alicon. Oh, I think that's actually the dictionary definition. Yeah. But I. How long has that been an option, Dairy Cipher? But I think have laid out, no, okay, all right, I'm tired of being mad. I'm going to go over fucking donations. Guys, hey, by the way, guys, listen, no hard feelings. I'm having a nice night. I love you guys, okay? Listen, for those of you who are really passionate about vegan ethics, I don't think veganism is exclusive to capitalism, Shostako Lich, not even close. I believe that the inherent immorality of supporting businesses is inherent to capitalism, however. Whatever the case may be, listen, it's all good. We're all going to be okay. I love you guys. You're very special to me. Listen, if you're vegan, you're upset or whatever, or you think I have a dumbass take or whatever, just listen up, okay? Nothing that I'm saying right now is in any way contrary to what you believe, okay? There's no contradiction here. I think a lot of vegans got real fucking eager about the ethics of veganism, and then they started applying standards hypocritically concerning virtue ethics, which isn't good, because we don't want to be hypocrites. We want to be consistent with our takes. So just chill out. It's okay. We're all going to be friends. I'm going to go over donos. Can you talk to you about ML versus anarchism? Class consciousness, really good. Soviet, no, I've seen you in chat, and you seem like a tanky who wants to do the fucking anarchity versus tanky memes. Soviet, I've literally argued in favor of a transitionary state to prevent against counter-revolutionary activity. Like I've literally argued in favor of that every time this comes up, Soviet. Frosty Nips. Comrade Courtney, thanks for donating Frosty Nips, the tier 1 sub. Spreading the dicks. Is that not Soviet made? No, hyena. I don't think so. The Left Tech Cat with $5. Thought Slime just tweeted saying cancel culture doesn't apply to cis white dudes. What do you say? Thought Slime is a kind of an idiot and very sensitive, and is still very mad the one time on Twitter I said that I disagreed with their take. Cancel culture doesn't apply to cis white dudes. Damn, big brain. Neocom with $5. You fucking degenerate. Now look at this video before I hug you. Don't hug without consent. I've seen this. Max Stjerner. Good ass meme.
No fighting. No fucking fighting. No fighting. No fucking fighting! Good. Get the fucking...
Amazing. Yeah, Thought Slime was in the Surfs chat for the stream. The Surfs did a stream on my video recently. I like the Surfs a lot. And Thought Slime and Alabrel and what's that bitch's name? The one trans girl on Twitch. It's not the one trans girl on Twitch, of course. The fucking what's her name? Izzy, that's right. They were all heckling from the chat. It's too bad because Izzy Bear and I used to be friends. I knew I couldn't trust her. All right, Awesomeo9 to $2. Mercipian sucks. Sure, why not? The Shadow Bee with the 5 Canadian. Vaush, capitalism incentivizes animal agriculture, but it's not the sole cause of it. To abolish it, there needs to be a cultural change as well. Yeah, I agree. You could absolutely have just as much animal exploitation in a socialist society. Zafir with a tier 2 sub. Thank you. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. If vegans really wanted to increase the vegan population, they would help advance the end of capitalism. I agree. Veganism can continue to exist. I'm sorry. Meat eating can continue to exist after capitalism. However, the end of capitalism is, in my mind, a necessary step. Try Anon with $5. Consequences for you not buying clothing, vehicles, and computers are serious impairment to your economic sustenance in your attempts to promote leftism. Consequences for not buying child porn? I don't think it makes a difference, Try Anon. I don't think that factors into the truism. If you want to do some weird like threshold shit where like, oh, you should only be held responsible for your consumptive decisions and this and this. I'm not saying it's good to buy child porn. I'm saying that if we want to apply our standards consistently, then we have to not be hypocritical and condemn certain forms of. I mean, like again, if you buy child porn or whatever, like you've bought child porn, that hurts people because you put money into that industry. But if you buy, fucking Coca-Cola, that money's going to Coca-Cola and they fund death squads. Like if you buy a t-shirt, like again, and you could argue like, oh, well, you need this more than that. But again, I don't really think that's irrelevant. There's always something else that you can do. So now the industry does mean something? No. What if CP is free? If you're not paying for child pornography, then there is no argument in favor of morally condemning people who get it. Seeker Wombat, yeah, if those moral categories are going to impugn basically every person on Earth, I do think that's an issue. I understand the threshold might be arbitrary, but I think absolute logical consistency is less valuable than the benefit to society from providing. No, I think there's benefit to society from being 100% consistent. If you're inconsistent, then you relegate like veganism and all other systemic critiques, the immorality of consumption, to this weird fringe position. If you're hyper consistent with it, if you're like really fucking consistent with it, you can say like, you can really shine a light on how unethical the broader systems in society are. That's my goal. I think the greatest goal here, the greatest good, would be to obliterate capitalism, you know? Because that, you know, it has its hands in everything. And for that, I need people to recognize the extent to which systemic harm is intrinsic to capitalism. And for that to happen, we need to start being consistent with our moral principles here. Oh, you think it's wrong to buy meat? Why do you think it's okay to buy clothing from these companies? Oh, you think it's wrong to buy fucking child pornography? Why do you think it's okay to buy fucking soy products from this company who contributes so much to deforestation? This is just it's important to be morally consistent. Well, Trianon. Well, that's the thing, though, Trianon. Your goal shouldn't be to prevent the person from buying child porn. Your goal should be to destroy the child pornographer. That's the goal there. And even in a practical sense, it's not like you can stop people from buying child porn in a way that doesn't impugn those who have who are actually producing it. If you're stopping people who have bought child porn, you probably have some information in on the system which is producing it. In practice, that's just not how you make the world a better place. Like what? Oh, you have child porn on your computer? Well, did you pay for it, or did you get it for free? And then like, oh, you paid for it? Well, to jail with you. Like, okay, why do we do that, but then not jail people for giving money to this industry or that industry? It's convoluted. Just fuck virtue ethics, fuck holding people morally accountable for the things they purchase, destroy unethical systems. Would you say West Virginia is almost heaven? Sure, why not? This is the same as safe injection sites? Yeah, exactly. It is. I agree you can do both. What the shit? Well, not without being fucking hypocritical, can't I? Guys, I'm sorry. Like, right now, some of you in chat are literally like, so what if I'm morally hypocritical and apply standards unequally? What problem is that? I don't know what to say. Bad utility comes from hypocrisy. It is in my opinion, it is immoral to be knowingly hypocritical. You should adhere to moral systems. If you can't justify your positions and you're literally like, well, I can't justify it or anything, but isn't the hypocrisy good? Then like, fucking weird champ, bro. What the fuck? That's not how it works, Cantankerous. Then why should we vote for Bernie? Because it's anti-Semitic not to. Hold on. Tactics advance with $5. Veganism isn't inherently better under capitalism because the demands of Western vegans demands slave immigrant labor to produce their products. Basically, capital complicates. Veganism isn't easy. Veganism isn't easy. I agree with that. I would still say that veganism is more ethical, like in terms of its consequences, than meat consumption, even under capitalism, considering how many fucking animals have to die. But no, yeah. Even a vegan diet contributes to unethical industries in this system. Is Vaush vegan? No, I'm not vegan. But I support vegan ethics. Sorry, it's effort to go vote. I won't do it. Okay. That has nothing. What does not voting have to do with? Okay, nothing. Never mind. Loopy Jackal with the $10. Vaush met the sweetest. Hey, Loopy Jackal. Met the sweetest girl through your server. Thank you so much. Vegan gains a shit at arguing this point because he's not anti-capitalist enough, but your arguments are even worse. This was painful. Well, we all know who that turned out, Loopy Jackal. Sorry, that's another stream in Arco-Anarchism. I don't understand that hypocrisy is always bad. Would you say it's possible for the consequences of being a hypocrite to sometimes have greater utility? If so, then I get it. For one, no. Because in the long run, consistent ethical principles are the means by which good is done. It is hypocrisy through which the cracks slip. If you're going to be hypocritical, you want it to be an instance in which you're being bad, because at least that means you're following the rule well. In this case, though, this is literally hypocrisy to justify an arbitrary moral standard because some people are morally dumbfounded and are just super duper upset by some things they were taught were extra bad, like socialization wise. Guys, I'm terribly sorry if you think otherwise. If you really think that the harm that is done to the world by buying child pornography is really that different from the harm that is done to the world by buying any of the average fucking consumer products that you buy on a day-to-day basis, if you sincerely believe that there's really that big of a difference between those two things, then I'm really sorry, but you actually need to research anti-capitalism a little bit more, because the entire framework, at least I'm fucking standing, at least with child pornography, these tend to be isolated in little fucking industries that are heavily targeted by the FBI, you know? In terms of the fucking broader systems that we deal with and we purchase from, these are perpetuating human and animal misery on an hitherto unseen scale, and will continue to do so, and are doing so with the tacit support of every regulatory and authoritative agency in existence. And you're giving them money to keep doing it. That's the only thing that could keep them afloat, and you're the one doing it. People rape kids for fun. They'll do it for free. You're the one keeping capitalism afloat, or at least a very small part of it. Shouldn't the FBI target CP? They should target CP rings. Yeah, 100%. And sexual abusers. Yeah, easily. Child porn is an industry that can be remedied, so it makes sense to give its abolition abolishment, more moral obligation. I'm not talking at all about abolishing of course, child rapists should be abolished. We're talking about having the pictures on your computer. No, Dante Thorne, I would rather have a non-hypocritical Nazi than a hypocritical Nazi who does good with through that hypocrisy. 100%. Easily. Yeah, easily I would. Because a hypocrite, you can never trust them. You can never trust them to do anything. They're shifty. They're shiftless. They'll jiggle their way in and out of anything. But a morally consistent person, you can trust to at least stand by their principles. Are we getting any RE2 tonight? Probably not. This is fucking exhausting, dude. Regimon with the $5. Didn't we evolve to crave meat? That seems relevant. I mean, yeah, meat fucking tastes good, but like, I don't think that's relevant to that thing. Meat could taste like super good. That doesn't change the ethics. Nippy Milkies with the $1. Hey, oh, dude, just want to say your recent take on how to expand the left is so legit. I used to be an anti-SJW and put off by the patronizing tone of a lot of leftists, and you converted me into an anti-capitalist in under a year. Keep it up, my dude. Hey! That is very uplifting and very much appreciated in this otherwise largely frustrating stream. Thank you, comrade. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Not enjoyed it. Benefited. Hype Scotch chat does have brainworms. This is the problem when you talk with like vegans or when you try to talk about how people be like, oh, well, it's okay when I give thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to unethical industries, but that person gave $5 to a child pornographer. I want them jailed. Like, and then this is just like an emotional like take, and you'll never get them off of it. You know. Sai, I don't think that the consumption of the child pornography has anything to do with the inherent immorality of the production of child pornography. In case there are people in chat with brainworms who don't know this, the production of child immorality is a horrendous crime, which is why it hasn't come up once. Been talking about the consumption of child pornography. Like having the pictures, you know? The pictures that you could literally take one of and then have disseminated to 10,000 people with no reproduction of the original event. Two very different things with very different ethical systems attached. Should consuming child porn be legal? I think that would be, yes, more legal and more ethically consistent. Yes, 100%. Soviet, I saw your message. The exact same thing could be said about the fucking slaves who work in South America to produce your fucking palm oil, okay? You want to fucking lotion up? This is exactly what I mean. People get emotional. Before Soviet got muted for saying the same thing twice, Soviet was like, this is offensive as a victim of... Hey, and he said, as a victim of child exploitation. Hey, buddy, sympathies. The fuck? But moral consistency is moral consistency. And everything you're saying, oh, the consumption of child pornography, they're all the enemies of the people, could say the exact same thing about all the people who fucking buy clothes. I'm sorry. Guys, it's the same. God, fucking kill me. It's like I just, over the course of my life, I may spend anywhere up to $1 to $1.5 million, on various industries, all of which, contribute to labor exploitation, wage exploitation, and some of them war profiteering, child slavery, that's it. But I'm a good person. Listen, I had no choice but to buy all of the thousands of things I've purchased over the course of my life. All the child slavery that happened was just a natural product of my of inevitable social forces I'm incapable of controlling. However, anybody who dares spend money on, or no, even who just consumes child pornography, that's unacceptable. Don't you realize you're propping up an unethical industry? Like, fucking kill me. Do you think it's immoral to be a pedophile and it's only immoral if you rape? What? No, being a pedophile is morally neutral. Isn't that just some shit you're born with? It's pretty fucked. It's hella immoral to rape though. What do you? That's not good. I'm just concerned with CP industries being bolstered. Well, I'm concerned with the entire fucking capitalist economy being bolstered and the moral hypocrisy that we perpetuate when we condemn people for participating in industries that are really icky, like CP, but then we just, like, oh, whatever, it's the rest of the industry. That really strikes me the wrong way. To me, this strikes to me as some lib shit. This is a tacit endorsement of, or at the very least, permission given to, the exploitative nature of capitalist industry. When we apply this hypercritical moral condemnation to people who contribute to certain industries, but then the rest of it we just give free fucking pass to. It's really fucking gross to me. It's like actually disgusting. Oh my god, you can hate both. What the fuck is wrong with you? Okay, Cantankerous, because you have an orange name, I'm going to give you one shot here before you get banned, okay? Because you've been saying some really dumbass shit. You can hate both, Cantankerous, but one of them can net you 20 years in jail. And one of them, if you admit you've consumed, will get you ostracized from every social community in existence. And the other one is paint by the numbers, day by day, normal life. So for you to say in response to what I just said, oh my god, you can hate both, what the fuck is wrong with you, is a complete non sequitur. The chat is full of murderers who have murdered because they drank Coke. Vaush, I literally can't believe you think it's just the same thing as people making clothing in Vietnam or China. I am literally crying and I seriously have lost a shitload of respect for you. What the fuck are these brainworms? What the fuck are you talking about? I can't. These are literally feels arguments. Yeah, is this satire? These are literally feels arguments. How should we respond to minors who willingly put their own pornography out there? That's a tough one. I don't really know. Slapping a child pornography charge on a kid who posted their own child pornography seems pretty dumb, but something should probably be done about that. It's really frustrating to me because, like, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but everything that I'm saying right now is consistent, like, with what I do. Like, I'm not saying one thing then doing the other. I'm expressing the moral system I believe in, and my behavior is also influenced by that moral systems. It's, they're synchronous. And I am a very far left, very progressive, very eyes on the prize, anti-exploitation deuterino. So my moral system has clearly led me to a pretty decent place. But when I talk about these things, sometimes people just they're morally dumbfounded. That's the term. It's when you think something is immoral, you're really upset about something, but you can't morally justify it. And that's what I feel from this. And it's unfortunate because, again, I am the way I am with or because of or in spite of maybe my positions on these things ethically. So for people to listen to that and then act like I'm defending child rape, like, it's just weird. Like, a lot of you guys are in my community. Like, you've watched me for a while. I've been very clear with all my positions. I just don't understand why you're acting this way. When you're like, I'm crying and shitting and sobbing right now because of this and this and that, when I've already addressed the specific false equivacy that's being drawn there, I don't know. You're just, like, upset. I don't know what to say about that. Speaking of, Soviet says, Vaush, you know that feelings matter in this world. We are emotional creatures. I didn't get paid for the rape I went through. So why the fuck is that somehow okay? The person making clothing makes money to make a living. I live with the scars of the abuse, and it has completely destroyed my life. When you say, oh, feels, you are completely different of a whole different type of exploitation. Okay, Soviet 2, what this is called is not an argument. I'm really sorry that I have upset you. This is literally not an argument. This is just frustration and upsettedness channeled into a comment on my website, okay? You need to not do that, okay? I sympathize with your frustration here, I really do, but like, there's no way to respond to this. So your argument here broadly is equivocating the harm done by supporting child rape and the harm done by supporting global capitalism is wrong because you didn't get paid for the rape you went through, but at least the people who are subjugated under capitalism make money for a living. I find this an extremely unconvincing argument, Soviet. The difference between CP and Coca-Cola is the harm you agree to directly. You only agree to the tasty drink, but you can protest the death squads. Leia, that is exactly the kind of doublethink capitalist lib horseshit that I have a huge problem with. Oh, it's bad when people buy CP because they're supporting that industry. Oh, me? When I buy a Coke? I'm just buying the soda. I don't consent to all the things, Coca-Cola does. Not with old me. I can still protest all the bad bits. That is the precise kind of dissonance that I think is literally killing the planet. It is that passiveness, that willingness to hold these two and things in complete. Like, you've literally just demonstrated to me why I have this take, because the alternative to having this take is the double standard you've just indicated, one which implicitly gives a pass to orthodox industry. Legit question, because I'd like to fully understand what you're saying. If your moral code logically leads to justifying something that would normally be considered unethical, wouldn't it be better to reconsider the ethics that led you to that conclusion than to use it to justify the action, or is it better to reconsider your original position? What? You have a moral system and find the best arguments that you can and consider things through the framework of that moral system. And if things that are typically considered immoral aren't moral under your system, then there you go. What do you mean? There's tons of shit that's typically considered immoral that I don't think is immoral. I don't think it's immoral to treat cops like shit. I don't think it's immoral to engage in Minecraft violence against certain people. I don't think it's immoral to block traffic to protest. I don't think it's immoral to be trans. A lot of people think it's immoral to be trans. I don't think it's immoral to raise children as a gay couple. Like, what do you mean? Like, my moral system leads me to plenty of things that are typically considered immoral that I disagree with. How would you grapple with the hypothetical extensive commercialized dogfighting industry under capitalism? Should we judge the consumers of it? Should we advocate for not consuming it? If we did consume it while advocating not to do so, is that morally consistent with our axioms as leftists? I could not judge the people who consume that because it's an industry. It's so you're paying money to watch dogs fight, right? Like, two dogs fighting each other, that's like peanuts and compared to the harm that's done by a ton of shit that we do, that's actually like people get really invested in dog fighting because people like dogs and they're so cute and they got the big ears and the big nose, but like dog fighting and the list of like evil things happening in the world, like dog fighting is like way down there. I couldn't condemn the people who are doing it, but I would still want people to not consume it. I would advocate for people to not consume it, but I wouldn't say they're bad people if they do it. And if we consume it while advocating to not consume it, then, I mean, you might want to consider why it is you think others shouldn't and assess that decision for yourself. But I advocate for people not to buy from shitty exploitative companies all the time. And, hey, look at what me. Hey, look at a bibbidi bobbidi. Look at what I do. Hey. Okay, there we go. that feel when in my moral system zoophilia is morally neutral. In most people's moral systems, zoophilia is morally neutral. If guys, here's a hot take. If you don't believe in vegan ethics, if you don't think that we need to put a stop to the meat eating industry, you should have literally no problem with zoophilia. If you unironically think that it's okay to murder them by the billions, but it's not okay to fuck them, then like you've got some big brain worms. Ooh, Sinir, damn. Oh shit, Wolfgar. Hold on, I'll get to that in a fucking Secarino. Thank you. In a Sekiro. Actually, I'm gonna get to it now. Wolfgar with the tier 4 sub. Thank you. Jesus, that's incredibly kind of you. If conservatives have brainworms, then fight back with brainworms. Use this professional study filled with brainworms to fight back against brainworms. Brainworms. Ah, yes. The classic. The time cube. You know what I want to do? The next time I go on one of those modern day debates where you have like 15 minutes to lay out your argument before the actual debate, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up the time cube and just start reading from it and see how long it takes before people realize. I think that's a good idea. That's a good strategy. Thank you, Wolfgar. I really appreciate it. Zoophilia versus bestiality, just to be clear. Oh, do you mean zoophilia is bestiality? Because I know it is bestiality. Well, actually, zoophilia isn't bestiality. Zoophilia means that you have the paraphilia for it, whereas bestiality is the actual act. So technically they're different, but yeah. Do you know the Down the Rabbit Hole series? No. Eco Terrier. If you feel like viscerally disgusted with that stuff, then that's totally fine and valid. Like 100%. I would never take that from you. That disgust, you have a right to feel it. And I feel disgust at a lot of things in my day-to-day life, but there's a big difference between feeling disgust and externalizing that disgust in the form of a moral condemnation. It's really frustrating because I feel I know I'm not a philosopher. I recognize that I'm not. When I talk about like ethics, I'm not done Mouseboy, not at all. When I talk about ethics, I understand I'm coming from the position of an amateur. I know I am. I recognize that. I feel like my position is pretty consistent. And it leads me to good outcomes. I think I have good takes on most everything. But when I explain the way I get there, a lot of people get upset, you know? Oh boy. Hold on. Yeah, somniostatic. It's really frustrating that even when you're streaming, even when people are listening to you word for word, even when you explain the same argument 10 times, there are still people who just don't get it. I choose to believe it's not because they're dumb, though. I think it's just because they're kind of emotionally invested. Here, hold on. Vaush, they are both bad things, but how does making CP deserve the same scrutiny that I never said making CP, Soviet. I said consuming CP. Making CP means raping children. Listen. Hey, listen. Here's raping children. This little thing right here. I don't know why I'm touching it. Here is the hand of moral condemnation, okay? Listen, I have never said otherwise. I live under capitalist system. Impressed me similar expression. Other people experience this, saying CP exists and consume somehow reduced to. No, it's just capitalist exploitation is laughable. Cracking down CP can doesn't morally more disgusting. There can be a dialectic. I'm sorry, Soviet too. Your words are just so emotionally loaded. Maybe we'll talk on stream someday, okay? You seem interested in doing so. Apparently you've lost much respect for me, so maybe that means you'll be more willing to yell at me, which always makes for a more fun stream. I'll consider it, Wolf Guy. Yeah, Raging Red Fox. This does remind me a little bit arguing with reactionaries, because reactionaries are usually the ones who are morally dumbfounded. I'm reminded of here. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Really quickly. Hold on. I'm sorry. Friendly Skeletor. I get like I'm autistic or whatever, but I really feel like I explained my positions decently this time. Hold on. Okay.
It's sad.
Here. This is how I feel sometimes. This is Destiny arguing with no bullshit.
And wait. What would you say about weight? I don't give a fuck about what grossly overweight. That's not what I said, and that's not the context of that discussion.
The context of that discussion was around you. So I asked, you're telling me that the only thing you could think up of was just a lie?
Okay, well, I'm a fat ass. Bro, you're a liar, man. You're also into incest, and you want to fuck your kids. I'm sorry, bro.
This is how I feel
Sad.
talking to chat.
Okay.
The first thing you said in this debate was I'm grossly overweight.
Yeah, so the reason why I bring this up isn't to make fun of you necessarily for being fat. Well, I mean, I'm quoting you. You just said it.
Your show is terrible. You just sit there Googling stuff. No one cares. You're giving away fucking pieces
Does it bother you when you argue with people that
parts.
actually know what they're talking about? Is that like...
You don't know.
Oh, man.
How fucking retarded you are. I've never said there were studies.
Okay, you made it sound like, I think you said every psychologist would say that would like mentally or psychologically mess you up. Did you not say that?
No, I didn't say that, man. You need to work on your listening. I mean, most psychologists would probably agree, and it was not what I said at all. You just misquote all the time, bro.
I need to put my kid gloves on. I'm sorry when I speak with you. The problem is that if somebody says something like, most historians say, most doctors say, most psychologists say, when they say that, they're usually referencing some type of polling data or some type of study. So when you said that, I made the assumption that...
Because you're dumb. You assume a lot of things because you're dumb. You said I said all psychologists would agree, which is much different than saying most. So...
Okay, most psychologists would agree. So can
do you admit that that's wrong?
Yeah,
I'll move
sure,
on
dude.
as soon as
yeah,
you
yep,
admit
I
you're
admit
wrong.
it's wrong. How do you know what most psychologists think if you're not referencing a study or a poll? Can you please tell me?
No, I'm not going to tell you shit.
So you don't. So you just pulled that statement out of your...
I mean,
out of
you're
your
not gonna
average
tell me-
BMI ass. That's
You're so dumb, dude. You're so dumb, man. They make compilation videos about how fucking retarded you are, how you're an autist, how you're tiny and skinny. Fucking loser, bro.
So-
Everyone hates you.
Can you tell me why these two twin men having sex is morally wrong?
Why do you keep saying that, bro? Oh my god, you're dumb. You're just too dumb to get it. You are just being fucking stupid, bro.
So let's say that we have cheeseburgers, okay? Let's say that somebody says, cheeseburgers are disgusting, right? And then your argument is, well, I don't think cheeseburgers are disgusting. I think they're neutral. In fact, I kind of like cheeseburgers. And then some guy says, okay, well, look at all of these cheeseburgers that have mayonnaise and ketchup on them. These cheeseburgers are disgusting. Therefore, because they have mayonnaise and ketchup on them, they're disgusting. And then you would say, well, no, your problem there is with the mayo and the ketchup, not with the cheeseburger itself. So therefore, you can't logically say that all cheeseburgers are disgusting just because some of them have mayo and ketchup on them. Do you agree or disagree with that? Do you think that's...
I think it's a stupid analogy, bro. You need to
Okay,
do
but it's
better.
literally a parallel to what we're talking about.
No, it's not.
Okay, let me talk through this. Let me know if you get lost here, okay? So...
Let's stick with the cheeseburger. We're talking about cheeseburger as incest, and you wanna just talk about the mayo and the ketchup.
This
Correct.
is when we
But
reach the
I'm talking about the
conclusion.
cheeseburger.
Okay, but the problem is you can't say that cheeseburgers are bad because your problem isn't with the cheeseburger. Your problem was with the mayo and the ketchup. And if you took the mayo and ketchup off, the cheeseburger is okay.
I just think you don't understand how the cheeseburger is also wrong. You're trying to isolate it, but
So you
it's
think
not
that if
working.
somebody
you think
says-
it's cute.
No.
You think it's cute because you're like, oh, I proved that incest is not inherently wrong, and you're just wrong, dude. You're just trying to use this little cute trick. Well, my argument is that incest is wrong.
Yeah, but
So,
you haven't given me an argument against incest or cheeseburgers. You're talking about the condiments. You're talking about other things that aren't intrinsic to those things.
You're a
Incest.
creepy incest-loving loser, bro.
Okay. Why
You
do
wanna
you talk
fuck with your
down to me?
family.
Why do you keep talking down to me, dude? You keep calling me
Because
stupid.
you're low.
You keep
You're
calling...
short. You're short and tiny, dude. You look dumb, and you live in a little shitty little fucking room,
Yep.
just reading your chat. Like, what makes you think defending incest is cute and neat? That's what I want to know. Like, why do you want to do pro-incest debate?
Wait, do you genuinely want to know? Because discussing incest is an interesting way to explore people's views on sexuality.
Well, then why aren't we talking about sexuality?
Because I don't think you're equipped to have that discussion. You still haven't
You
given
don't
me...
think I'm equipped? Little pedantic bitch.
Yeah, sure thing, my dude.
So you think incest is wrong?
Yeah.
Well, then I win.
No, you don't. Because you never gave... You still haven't given me an argument against incest.
The debate is whether incest is wrong. You said incest is wrong.
Yeah, well, I already thought that coming into the debate, but you haven't given me an argument for why anybody should think that. You haven't convinced me of anything. You haven't said anything.
Well,
I
mean,
before.
I guess you just have to watch the debate again because I gave you lots of arguments. You just don't get it.
Gotcha.
You think you're smart. You're not.
Okay.
Okay, I'm meek and I'm a pussy. Okay, I'm just gonna take it like a little bitch on my own show. I'm just gonna take it. I'm Steven. I like incest. And okay. Are we still on?
No, I'm just waiting for you to finish. You got any more?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know that was a I know that was a distraction. I'm sorry.
Like I don't know what to even say to that, to be honest with you. Like,
That's fine. Your initial characterization of economic viewpoints across Europe is horrendously incorrect and misinformed, and I corrected you on it. That's all I wanted to do.
I guess what you're saying though is like the establishment considers a different thing left than what maybe people who are actually advocating for a leftist thing are.
Yeah, sure. I don't care what a fringe minority of people on the internet call left.
Oh, sure.
I don't care what the people on BreadTube, what all the white college kids on BreadTube call left or whatever. I'm just saying that like
Why
the
is the
idea that
audio
people
so
present me as
distinct?
like I would be right wing in all these European countries is completely not true. Maybe when the litmus test is whether or not you would literally eat fucking landlords, that's what considers you left. Maybe in like some small circles of very white, very male, very college educated, very affluent parts of the internet. Maybe those people would consider me right wing, sure. But in the broader electorate in America and in the rest of Europe, absolutely not. I would be considered left. Okay, do you want to go over the...
He's right. It does make me cringe a little bit when people act like Destiny is a conservative. All right. What was I doing? Donos? Okay, hold on. Noopy with the tier 1 sub. I'm not a vegan either, smiley face. Thank you, and hell yeah. Soviet, I'm not talking to anyone today. Fuck that. My fucking cough's gonna come back. Also, you don't need to keep making new accounts. You're only being banned for 3 minutes for fucking repeat posting. No, Destiny is not a leftist. He's just a progressive liberal. Alright, hold on. FBT with the tier 1 sub. Still testing my fucking bank cards. Ay. Also, lab-grown meat will be our salvation. True! And after that, transhumanism. We just need to wait a few hundred years, no biggie. Hey! We got all the time in the world. Oh, shit, Pig Puncher. Hey, Hyena, what do you think? Do you think I could do Resident Evil? No, I shouldn't. I should take care of my cough. What about Destiny is progressive? Destiny is, ardently argued in favor of, reparations, trans rights, gender abolitionism, like everything. Like, literally every progressive position, Destiny is pretty far left on. Easily, yeah. You think so, Hyena? Jesus, okay. No rest for the fucking wicked. Hold on, let me go over donos. Then we're gonna play some fucking Resident Evil. Guys, my Resident Evil gameplay is top tier. Top tier. If a robot made super realistic child porn without using any actual children, would consuming it be fine? Yeah, it would have to be, right? There's no way, nobody could condemn that with, a consistent ethical position. Unless they're one of those people who thinks it should be illegal to draw lolly, in which case, stupid. Hold on. Cortain with the $5. I want to do some good with my money, so I donated those $5 to charity. Love you, Vaush. Thank you, comrade. I am charity. I am a charity. Posadish John with the $1. I'm not a vegan, but here for your troubles. Thank you. The ESPers, Espers with $5. Gonna start an ethical co-op cheese factory. All milk comes from human titties. That would be ethical. Oh, Flower Yo Garden. A lot of people in the Surfs chat are the exact kind of woke scoldy folk that I'm criticizing in my videos. Jen Omega with the $5. Good debate. VG not as good as other vegans at rebutting you. Take my college money, you capitalist. I love taking money from college students. Ha! I love making the poor poorer. I'm like reverse Robin Hood. Jane Fehan with the $2. Love your craziness. Thank you. And Sup Ferg with the incredibly generous $20. Thank you so much, comrade. I'm vegan, but this is BS. Vegans will tell others to practice No Meat Monday each week, and it'll have a significant positive impact, which is true, but in the same breath morally condemn those who refuse to convert fully. Yeah, Sup Ferg. For one, I love you. Thank you for the $20, and also I love you. But yeah, it's really fucking cringy to me. Like today, when the vegans in chat were like, "Vegans don't morally condemn people." Shut the fuck up. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You fucking kidding me? Every time I talk about veganism, I have people who are fucking down my throat because I'm not a vegan. Come on. Bro 9698, the $1. Hey, Vaush, just wondering, you said you could definitely see an African country becoming comparable to a European one within the next 50 years, provided nothing bad happens. I was wondering, would the US or UN allow that to happen? Yes, they have a lot to benefit. More trading partners means a stronger economy. Period. China is already investing in an urban, industrialized Africa. Farrell with the $5. Once a product is on the shelf, it's gone through the supply chain already. Don't pin the producer's fault on the consumers. Jesus Christ. The $5. Well, consuming does do harm because you're giving money to the industry. I just don't think it's morally wrong. But yes. Chaos with the $5. So would you say the people who purchase child porn are just as bad as the people who sell it, or no? No, not even slightly. I don't think that you should morally impugn anyone who purchases child porn for the same reason I wouldn't want to be morally impugned for buying clothing from companies that like use slave labor to do so. However, those who produce and sell the child porn, that is an entirely different question. Maoist Boy with the tier 1 sub, thank you. Why buy blood diamonds when you could buy pee-pee diamonds for the same price? You not pee blood? Somniostatic with the $20. Thank you so fucking much. That is incredibly kind of you. I think the difference is that you immediately break it down on an academically philosophical level, whereas those kinds of points are misinterpreted based on reaction takes, like Luppy. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not like a philosopher or anything, so I don't want to come off as like pretentious or nothing, because I'm not qualified to make like this, bro. But listen, I just want us to be able to justify our ethical positions, okay? Comrade Courtney, thanks for donating the tier 1 sub to come on, man. Dicks. Indeed. I love you. And Sake Tsunuki with the $10. Thank you. I disagree with all of that. Animal suffering is delicious. If you could bottle it as a spice additive, I'd put it on everything. I'd eat extra suffering food. Careful with that edge. Love you, buddy. Bronet9698 with the $1. Do you think if Republicans overturn Roe versus Wade, that'd be a slippery slope towards having other civil liberties guaranteed by the Constitution overturned? 100%. Easily. I'd say that if things go really, 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 really bad, we could maybe be within 30 or 40 years away from like the 13th and 14th being like amended or repealed. But that's like worst case. Sake Tanuki with the $5. Sentient plants now. We need them to feel pain and suffering so they too can join the deliciousness. All right, buddy. I'm sure Chad appreciates the donations just as much as me. Also, I take it back. No Resident Evil. Sorry. Nope. It's already nearly been 4 hours, and my cough is coming back pretty bad. I need to take care of myself, or the thing is never going to go away. Terribly sorry, folks. I'll do it tomorrow, okay? Entropy, ask me yourself. Yeah, Dairy Cypher, the privacy arguments are pretty bad, IMO. Yeah, can we get a fucking hypers in chat for everyone who started out a liberal or even right wing? Can we get some fucking solidarity in here? Oh, is Conyers streaming right now? Oh shit, Conyers streaming. My boy. My boy! I have to force host Conyer. Okay, after this, I'm going to attempt to host someone, okay? Hold on. Hosselboy with the incredibly generous 20 bucks. Thank you. I'm hoping so you and Vegan Gains can have a discussion. He is so close to going full leftist. He said a few years ago it'd be preferable to go communist instead of keeping the system COD stream. COD stream? System consistent? COD stream? Winder Vosa, how do I host? No, he just ended? God damn it. No, never mind. Yeah, I do think that at least the first half of the convo with Vegan Gains was pretty good. It could have been a lot worse, at least. I did, yeah, the Big Marvis. Did I ever look at the new settings? Yeah, I did, White Nervosa. I just have a bad memory. And Ziggy Zack, not yet. 2 weeks till I can appeal. Somnio Static with the $20. You are so fucking generous to me, comrade, and I really appreciate it. Seems like a running gag sometimes. The chat misinterprets what you say eternally, and you explain 500 times and get mad, lol. Yeah, listen. It's ongoing theater, okay? It's good. It's fun. We all have a great time. Oh, is the surf still streaming?
What real estate do they have to advertise on?
You would just buy ads at a co-op owned like radio station or something. I don't know where we normally.
What if the other co-op doesn't want that? Like, if it's not a market economy, what are they exchanging?
Oh, so wait. So we're out of a market economy. Completely.
For me, I would advocate out of a market economy. I don't know how we get there. I'm not going to say
centrally planned system.
No, not entirely. You can have a democratically planned system. However,
wait. So when I say centrally planned, what I mean is like
this is going to trigger the fuck out of me. I can't listen to other lefties make arguments to Destiny. I can't do it. Sake Tanuki with the $5. Let's unironically just eat the vegans. It solves all the problems. They'll taste just like pork. I feel like they'd be stringy. Beyonce with the $5. Late, but I think I see a false dichotomy. Veganism is morally good because reducing harm, but not being vegan is morally neutral since individuals cannot control unethical food/good production. Well, my argument would just be that as a rule, it is unproductive of us to criticize people for contributing to unethical consumptive systems, and that we already don't do that in all other instances. It's just vegans, and vegans do it just for that. God, sorry, my cough is coming back. Jelly Toad with the 555. Is offhand calling coffee drugs in an attempt to destigmatize them around non-woke people praxis? Fuck the drug war. You can give it a try, but I don't think a lot of people are going to buy an attempt at drawing an equivacy between between coffee and like what people typically consider drugs. But it is a drug, so what are you gonna do? Then Mako Umineko with the $5. I think I understand your point of view more. I think humans are fundamentally hypocritical / bad. We justify evil and make it cultural. Sorry for my poor proficiency at speaking English. Was awkward. Oh, Dan Maku, I'm sorry you're real sad. I'm sorry about your sad take on humanity in general, but no, I enjoy talking to you. Anime. I love you. Hey, Conyer, we were about to host you, and then you stopped streaming. Chancellor Leavitt with the $1, thank you. And Numbry with the $5, thank you for answering my questions. I really like the way you explain your ethics. It's much easier for me to understand than it's just bad. Sometimes I need the extra help, though, fellow autist. Hey, autists and non-autists both benefit from consistent moral systems, okay? Don't ever apologize. Don't. Man, fuck me. Posada Sean with $1. Bernie is doing well after his surgery, which is awesome, but have you seen Destiny's tweet about it, and what do you think? I will say I like his debate with No BS. The No BS debate was good. Destiny's tweet was crass, but I can't really condemn him for it. Darth Vader with the $1. If No BS challenged you to a street fight, who would win? Have you ever seen what no bullshit looks like in real life? I'm pretty sure I would win. And Noctis with the $5. Hey Vaush, take my disability welfare money to piss off the conservatives. Ha! When do you think eco-terrorism is going to kick off? I'm thinking the next 3 to 5 years. I'd give it 2 years in the developing world, 3 to 5 years in the developed world. It's going to be a powerful meme. All right, we're almost done. I keep pulling the shirt down because I don't like feeling any constraint in my throat. Ethan with the $5. Thanks for showing me leftism and ripping me for my liberal hell. Feeling much happier and in line with my actual core beliefs. Hey, love you, buddy. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Aurora with the $2. Andrew Yang like a libertarian in the wrong party. Yes. Bro9698 with the $1. What could possibly be the justification for repealing the 13th and 14th Amendment? Also, if it did happen, could you see a civil war erupting? I mean, maybe. There's always a potential for a civil war somewhere down the line, but I don't know. And also, that's complicated. Darth Vader with the $1. I want you to brawl no BS to the tune of Comps to something. Maybe one day. We'll see at VidCon. Eldritch Moe Blob with the $5. Hey, Vaush, sometimes you say things that rankle me a bit. Forces me to consider your positions and think as well as challenge my own assumptions. That's far more valuable than this paltry sub. Thanks, bro. Thank you! That was very kind of you to say. I appreciate it. I find that a process very important internally. Helps one out. Thank you. And then finally, we conclude. Wolfgar with the $6. I keep forgetting to ask you this. Have you read anything about the anti-vaping shit going on? Seems like a parallel to the drug war with bipartisan support and misleading crap coming from the media. Yep, it is. Another industry being targeted with moral condemnation because it interrupted the profit-seeking of the cigarette industry, which is one of the reasons why marijuana was targeted as well. It's pretty fucking gay, but, you know, what are you going to do? Well, we can vote, I guess. Thank you, Wolfgar. Sorry, I'd have more to say otherwise. Kanga with the $2. When's the next fan art stream? In a little while. Maybe. Alright. I gotta fuck off, because I can feel my voice dying. I love you folks very much. Contentious stream as always, but that is, after all, my job, and I love it. Have a good one, okay? I'll see you all tomorrow.